We are back at it. Just 5 games remain in this NFL postseason, and we got 2 of them today. This is the Awesemo Betting Show presented by Yahoo. Pete McCarthy, Eytan, Shander with you. We got Jordan Klein producing. We will be breaking down these 2 big games today: the Rams, the Buccaneers, the Chiefs, the Bills. Probably some more points than we saw yesterday in these games. I think that is the expectation. But man, you do all this studying for these games, and then they come down to Ryan Tannehill throwing 3 interceptions and a blocked punt for a touchdown. Those are the key denominators yesterday in these games, Eytan. It's NFL playoffs, man. Anything goes.
You know, it's not often that you not only lose the battle, but also the war in the same day. And not only, my friend, did I get my ass kicked up and down the field in Lambeau, similar to Aaron Rodgers and that Packers offense, but gone, extinguished is that plus 2,000 Packers futures ticket I was holding from way back when. Yes. So let's just hope today. Short memory. That's what we say, right? Bettors have to have a memory like a cornerback. Short memory. Forget the last play. Let's just keep firing.
You got to bounce right back. And that's what we got to do today. Try to figure it all out. Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much, much more. And once you do subscribe, hit that notification button to get alerts when our shows go live. I don't know. My hope is, if I take the over on anybody, that they don't leave with a chest injury right after halftime. That was not great for me. I was very into AJ Dillon last night. Looked so great on that first drive, and then he gone. So let's get into it. We don't have a ton of time with you as far as this show goes. We're looking at the spreads, the over-unders, the player props for the next 25 minutes for Rams, Bucks, and then Chiefs, Bills. You got any questions, any props you want us to talk about? Drop it in the chat. And then it's going to be daily fantasy all day long, taking you up to kickoff, 3:00 start for the Rams and Bucks, another NFL doubleheader. We only have 2 more of these doubleheaders in front of us, so I got to take it all in here. So Rams, Bucks, the Bucks a 2.5-point favorite, 47.5, the over-under there. Any early feelings on this game, Eytan?
I was on Tampa really from the jump, and I'm not budging as much as I know the Rams are a popular dog. And it just felt like both quarterbacks are going to throw. We've seen their passing props jump exponentially since they were first put on the board. So initially I was in, I think it was 286.5. And even that jumped a little bit from 282 for Brady. So I looked at Stafford was 279.5 when I initially got in. That has shot up since. So that was kind of my mentality in all of this, Pete, was that both quarterbacks are going to throw a ton, should transfer over into points. I know we didn't see enough points in the first 2 games yesterday, but again, remove that from our memories. So I like going here with the Bucks, and I think it just benefits that the higher the passing from both quarterbacks that we're going to get, the more points that we should get on the board, the more it should favor Brady and the Bucks, even though the counter to that is always, well, he's down Godwin, he's down Brown, he's down all these guys. But the reality is that I'm not fading Brady this early in the playoffs. I'm not going to do it.
I don't think the lack of receivers really matters much, right? I mean, Tom Brady has made a lot of pedestrian receivers look pretty good over the years. I think the issue with the matchup here, we know the playbook on Tom Brady, right? You got to get pressure on him without blitzing. And Aaron Donald is just, it's the worst guy for Tom Brady to have to deal with. And look, they scored points against the Rams earlier this year, but look at what Aaron Donald was able to do last game, just getting into the pocket. Kyler Murray's running for his life every single play.
Yep.
How do you stop that? And now, the Bucks might be without their right tackle, Tristan Wirfs, in this game, and it doesn't affect Donald that much. It's going up the middle. But if you can get pressure on Tom Brady, and Aaron Donald is the perfect guy to move him off that spot, to make him uncomfortable, that is the recipe. And the other thing, we look at this Tampa Bay run defense, and it was fantastic the first half of the season, and certainly last year. It has not been as effective recently. I'm really interested in Cam Akers today because he looked fantastic last week. I don't think that this Bucks rushing defense is impenetrable as it was earlier in the year. I ended up playing the receiving yardage, the over on Cam Akers there. He had 1 catch for a big play last week. I didn't go to the rushing yardage because it's in the mid 40s. It's relatively high, but I think the Rams are a very live dog here. I'd be interested in the Rams plus 120 on the money line.
Yeah, that has been my concern all week, is just how popular they've been. And just looking at they're getting a ton more money, right? Especially on that spread, which makes sense, right? At 3, the Rams being a dog that people like to win outright, then it would make sense that a lot of people would jump on that spread as well. That's what concerns me. Bills too. We'll get to them, I know, in depth, but both of these maybe it's just recency bias too, right? Maybe it is something where it's like, hey, look, speaking for you here, like, hey, I've been on the Bills or the Rams part of me from the jump, but now there are a bunch of people, the public has looked at what happened yesterday, those last 2 games, they're starting to pile on more and more. I just am concerned about how popular they are of a choice across the board. Again, what you mentioned about Aaron Donald is a valid point. And I think the difference here is that they know that Tampa's line is decimated. They know that they have to adjust. Easier said than done. I get it. But at least you have a week. At least you have an idea of what you need to prepare for, as opposed to just waiting and also dealing with injuries to the line that we saw the Bucs deal with last week right away in that Eagles game. So I think that there's an opportunity here for the Bucs to just strategize, if you will, scheme around that. Doesn't mean that you're going to take Aaron Donald out of the game. Doesn't mean that he's not going to put his hands on Tom Brady multiple times, Pete. But I think here, for me at least, I'm still going to err on the side, and this is why I like both passing yards as far as the over. Yeah. They've adjusted a little bit, but that's where I started with that. Now, look, points are different, right? We've seen plenty of times where guys can get the ball out, passing yardage, a wide receiver screen, quick out, quick slant can break something, but doesn't transfer into points. So to your point, I think I'm less inclined to go over the total, because I can see Brady getting the ball out. I can see Stafford getting the ball out, but I don't necessarily know if that automatically transfers into points. Definitely high passing, but I'll concede that I don't know if it means high points.
Well, I agree with that. And if I like the Rams to potentially win this game, which I do, then I don't mind Tom Brady over on the passing yards. And look, it's always kind of a safe play, because dude's going to pass no matter what. And Bucs could be up 40. He's going to go back and pass. He hasn't come out of games early, really, all season. He's going to have that opportunity. And what I will say is, if Aaron Donald isn't an absolute wrecking ball in this game, then the Rams will be in trouble, because they have multiple injuries in the secondary. They got away with it last week. I mean, they're playing Eric Weddle off the couch, and he's off the couch. He's 37, 39 years old, whatever he is now. Yep. He's our age, and he's out there trying to stop Tom Brady now. It's going to be a little different story than I think we saw with Kyler Murray missing DeAndre Hopkins so much last week. This Tampa Bay offense, even if they don't have A.B. Godwin, Mike Evans, the different weapons that they have. I think Evans is kind of interesting to lock in on. Had a big week last week against the Eagles. You got to think that's one of the areas that Brady's going to be looking at without having, again, Godwin and AB. So Jalen Ramsey's always a factor on the other side of the field, but doesn't necessarily cover the top guy over and over. How does that play in? Because I always find it interesting when there is that great corner. And how much do you think that affects the top receiver on the other team? Does he not cover him? How does that play out? Do you have a feel?
I think that we should anticipate again that the Bucs are down a couple of guys, and he's just an easy target for Jalen Ramsey to stay on. So now it's on Tampa, it's on Arians, right? It's on Leftwich, it's on Brady to get creative and to either move Evans around pre-snap or just to get him moving and crossing more of a horizontal level of the field, I think, than just to try to beat Jalen Ramsey vertical. So I'm not doubting Mike Evans by any means, but I also think that it's not going to be a cakewalk. I'm with you. I mean, just looking at his player props and just looking at going over, let's say, receiving yards for Evans alone, I think he can get that. I think that's fine. If you wanted to go like belligerent and, alternate 100+ receiving yards for Evans or something like that. No, but over 71.5 is what I have it here in PA, man. I think that's attainable. Even 80, if you wanted to look at it, 80+ yards, you can get plus 126 back at a book here in PA. I don't hate that either. I also think, though, that you're right. Jalen Ramsey on Evans is probably going to limit him a couple of plays, and that's where Gronk, Brait, that's where you can get creative. Fournette, we know, right? Like, that's where I think you can get creative, maybe even with an anytime TD, especially the tight ends when you start to get a little closer in there. But I'm with you. I like Evans.
Brait is interesting. When I looked at the Awesemo projections, it was very bearish on Cameron Brait today. but he has played a ton of snaps since Godwin went down. He's really been the guy that's kind of stepped up. They've had a lot of 2 tight end sets. It hasn't really translated into production from Cameron Brate, but it's a very low number. I mean, it's a stay away from me, but I think it's one of those that'll be interesting. Is there a number one prop in this game? Is it just Tom Brady, the passing yardage that you fell in love with early and sticking with it?
All right, I got 2 here for you, but I want to put your Rams play feet to the fire if I can. All right. The biggest ones for me are the overs. And I even same game parlayed the 2 of them again earlier in the week, but I put Brady and Stafford over. I just think either way, it's going to be a game in which both teams can throw. Yes, it's a little colder in Tampa, but it ain't Buffalo, Green Bay. No, I'm not worried about that. Let me give you 2 longer shot bets. Let me throw it back to you, Mr. Rams guy, today. All right. Because I'm seeing how confident you are, Pete, on either. Look, you don't have to play either one of these, to be honest with you. They're both plus 550 and they're out there for a reason. Right. But if you look at how we've talked and I'll give you credit, you've built a very credible game script here for how the Rams can attack Brady and ultimately cover, if not win this game. So here's the first one. Rams to win, have the most rushing yards, and have the most receiving yards is plus 550. I'm going to give you the other one. Just hold on to that. That's the first one. Second, Cam Akers to go for $1 plus 100 plus rushing yards and score 1+ touchdown. So that's it. 100 yards and a touchdown.
100 yards rushing and receiving, or just rushing?
No, just rushing. Yeah. Good catch on that one.
Yeah, I'd feel a lot better about it with the rushing and receiving.
Yes.
Wow. Yes. I don't know about 100 yards for Cam Akers. I mean, you're still going to see a little bit of Sony Michel in this game. He's not getting 30 carries today. At least that's not what I'm expecting. So I don't love the second one because of that. The first one's interesting, but I do think that the Bucs passed the ball and moved the ball through the air. And it's hard to lead a game in rushing and passing. Right. I mean, if they're leaning on Cam Akers a little bit because the Rams are playing from ahead, then, Stafford's not throwing as much. So look, I get why it's plus 550. It's really just the receiving yardage line that worries me a little bit because it's really passing yardage, right? I mean, I guess the difference is we're not counting sacks. That's why they call it the receiving yardage. Correct. Exactly. That's a good point too. You're not catching that. I mean, look, if you really wanted to double down on both guys throwing the football, you could get like a plus 400 on Stafford and Brady to each have 300 passing yards. But again, a lot of volume comes with that throwing the ball. And you really need a shootout at that point, because if one team is up, right, if Stafford or Brady are doing the heavy lifting in the first half and they have a 17-point lead, the other guy is certainly going to throw and probably should clean 300 yards easily. But the other quarterback is just going to try to get the hell out of there into the conference round. Yeah. So it's tough one there. Yeah. Best bet. Best bet. What you got? Number one. Across the board in this game? This game. Bucks. I'll take the Bucks. I'll lay the 3. I'm conflicted because I like both passing overs as well. But if I had to choose one play on this game, I'm going to go with the Bucks. Got it. I'm 0 for 2 yesterday, so don't listen to me. Well, look, that's how we learn, right? It's a learning day. I like Cam Akers, the receiving yardage being pretty low. I think he's going to be a factor in this game one way or the other. And then I played Tyler Johnson. He had a very low receiving yardage total here. He's been on the field a lot. Not the greatest receiver in the world, but we're looking at, I think it was like 27.5 on Prize Picks. So I think Tom Brady's going to spread the ball around a little bit. So we'll see. I know I saw a question in the chat that was a good question. How much did Ramsey cover Mike Evans the first time around? And remember, this is week 3, but sure. I read it was under 20% of the snaps. So he wasn't on Evans a lot. To be honest, Evans wasn't the number one receiver for the Bucs back then. It was Chris Godwin who's not playing. Absolutely. So maybe it's a little different story for a couple of reasons there, but something to keep in mind. I know people are curious. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content from nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass. $29.95. This will give you full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, lineup builder, and much, much more. And of course, if you're only looking to play NFL DFS, you could sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NFL packages for as low as $3.95 weekly. Less than a coffee. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Maybe like it's a bougie coffee, but it's it's like a coffee.
Look,
Bills,
man, you can't get cheap coffee anymore. Let me just say
no?
that. If you're getting cheap coffee, no. All the fast food chains, even like the places that are not known for coffee, have realized they can jack their coffee up a little bit. Otherwise, you're getting just terrible coffee. So
it is a coffee.
I'm banking the average person is spending up for coffee. They can definitely afford this.
Yeah, we're not jacking it up. You got it there. $3.95. Bills, Chiefs, 1.5. Chiefs on top here. Big time over under 54.5. I mean, this should be a real fun game from DFS perspective, from a football perspective, the whole shebang here. Man, I said this. I wrote this morning. I like the Bills, and I think the Bills end up winning this game. Man, it's hard. This whole weekend, I haven't seen a whole lot where I look at the line and I say, ooh, I love this one. I mean, these are all tight games. I just think the Bills, what they've done over the course of the season, what they've done these last 5 weeks, trending in a really strong direction. I love Josh Allen running the ball. Has been a big factor for them. And look, I know this Chiefs defense really turned things around early on, but it's such a different test against Josh Allen in this Buffalo Bills passing game.
So what is it that you think is ultimately going to be what undoes Kansas City? Because I'm with you. And I've had this conversation with Rasa on the Odd Shopper channel. I've had this conversation with Lindquist earlier. We were doing other DFS content at the end of the week, pardon me. So you are far from the only one that I've had a conversation with, even though I'm on the other side on Kansas City. And I trust you more than those other two minds put together. So I'm just curious with you. Is it something that you're looking at, or it has to be, right? Because the Chiefs are too damn good for Buffalo to just come out and beat them, which I agree could happen. Like, Buffalo is a good football team, but what is it in Kansas City? Exactly. They've done it. What is it in Kansas City that you think will be their ultimate undoing that Buffalo can then jump on?
I don't even know what I'm picking against Kansas City, right? Like, I think the Bills are a really good football team. I don't think they're as great as they were last week. In fact, I like New England to beat Buffalo. My opinion doesn't really change all that much. I mean, one thing I always look at, the number one thing I look at before I pick any game, is Football Outsiders, is DVOA. And the weighted DVOA, how teams are performing recently, just kind of get an idea. It's just a quick, ugly number, and then I use that to look. And when I looked at that, this felt like a pick'em type of game. The Bills have been a better football team than the Kansas City Chiefs over the last 7-8 weeks. So when you look at the weighted DVOA, yes, they're on the road, but they're capable of winning in this environment. They did it earlier this season. The weather shouldn't be a big time issue here. It's gonna be cold, but nothing beyond that. They're similar football teams. I mean, they want to pass the ball. I like the Bills defense a little bit more. The other thing that I do keep in mind with the Chiefs is I don't think Tyreek Hill is 100%. He hasn't been right in recent weeks. And that's the guy that takes the top off the defense for Kansas City. And if you're not getting those explosive plays, this is the big issue they were having offensively earlier this year. Are they willing to plod along and pick up 5 yards of play and move it down? They found something, Jerick McKinnon last week, but I think it's a high scoring game. I would take the 1.5. I'm not even saying Bills money line. I'm saying I want the point. Give me the point, even in a high scoring game.
Okay. But what I'm interested in now is how you ended that, because I think, look, this line is tight for a reason, because either one of these teams can come in and win this game by 2 points, by 6 points. I can see that. But don't you think that the better Buffalo's chances are, the more or the less points should go up on the board? Like, if this is a 42-38 game,
Bills are capable of winning that. Yeah,
you do. You think that?
Yeah,
see, I would think it's the opposite.
Points. No, because the Bills aren't going to be running the ball. I don't see them, pounding Devin Singletary. They're going to be passing. Josh Allen's going to be extending plays, running a little bit. I mean, I think both these teams are very comfortable playing a high-scoring game.
I just think I wonder how the offense changes. We've seen the Chiefs win consecutive, like they're a beast at home. They win games. They also get up, right? They get to 10 faster than any team at home. I think it was 7 straight games that they have this thing running for them. So the dynamic, that's what I'm interested in, and also don't want to bet on at this point. Like, I'm not faulting you for taking the Bills by any means. I look at how tight this line is. It's essentially a pick 'em for the Chiefs at home, who have won 8 straight. So they're doing something, right? Line aside, you don't have to worry about them covering some 8-point line. But what I was looking at was, all right, the Chiefs getting ahead, anticipating that game script. How does that alter what we've seen with Buffalo? Because I'm with you. Like, they clearly have the talent to put up points as they've had. They've pushed around some teams in the NFL and put up some points. I also think Spag's unit defensive unit, pardon me, has gotten significantly better and may even present a little bit of a problem for the Bills once they're down 10, 13 points. All things are equal, or we're locked into an even game where it's, 3 points, it swings like that. Yeah, I get it. Like Buffalo can hang, but if they're down and then they lose that ability. Okay.
Now, I'll give you an example. The Tampa Bay game that Buffalo played this year, they're down 24-3. They came back they tied that game 27-27, and then Brady went down the field and they scored the touchdown in overtime.
Yeah.
But the Bills were able to come back in that game. Yes, they beat up on bad teams this year. That's something that they did very often, and they had the bad loss at Jaguars, so it's part of it. But they're kind of a bully team. We saw it last week. They got up on the Patriots. They love to add points in the fourth quarter.
Sure.
They did that a bunch. I mean, the Jets played them tough week 17 or week 18, and then they added 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, make it look a little better. There's been a lot of window dressing with this Bills team, but they're a good football team. They're capable. They're peaking at the right time. They've won 5 in a row. I really like Josh Allen. I think he's a very good quarterback, right? If you're ranking the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL today, I think, probably at number 5 is where you're getting into Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, who fits in there, right? I mean, he's
Allen's up there. Oh yeah,
he's capable of winning a Super Bowl, has all that ability. I like both these teams offensively. I see a lot of points here. I don't see either team saying, hey, we got to keep our running game on the field and keep their offense off of it. Oh, man, this is a game where the quarterback's going to shine, be a little different than the late game we saw yesterday, where it's, punt, 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 punt.
Let's hope to God it's different than the other game. And just for reference, my Eagles came back against the Bucs. All right, so
no, they didn't.
Teams, yeah, they did. That Thursday night game.
Oh, okay. Oh, not last week. Oh, come on,
no.
They scored 15 points in the second half. What are you talking
I'm talking about the first time around.
Okay,
yes.
All right.
Pardon me. Let me clarify. A lot of people don't remember that first game. That's all we have to hang our hat on this year. All right. So let me throw 2 things out at you. I know we're winding down here.
Yeah.
This is the 2 that I love. And I don't know how, after you've laid this all out here, especially a higher scoring game, I don't know what you'll say on this. I played them, I staked them individually, and I put them together for a nice same game parlay at plus 280. I'll always on Odd Shopper, of course, as Pete is constantly telling you with Ben as well here. It's the free tool that you can use each and every day with our projections here from Alex. So I went over both rushing yards for quarterbacks. I went over 50.5 for Allen, and I went over 22.5 for Mahomes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those aren't running plays. Those are passing plays that break down. And this we saw Ryan Tannehill doing this yesterday. I mean, you get to this time of the year, you put your shoulder down, you're trying to get to that first down marker. You're Deacon going out of bounds, right? Both these guys capable of getting there. I mean, that's a big number on Josh Allen, but he's more than capable of getting there. He's their best runner.
I would think.
Like if there's a prop, who leads the Bills in rushing yardage, I would be interested where Allen is. I would hope it's plus money. I would jump on that.
I would think so. Now we have to look at, God, it's only plus 500 where I see it here. But again, shop. That's why Odd Shopper is around for you. Singletary is at even money for an anytime TD scorer. He's at plus 5 for 2+. I felt like this with Derrick Henry. Now it crashed, but this is kind of how, I approached it more so from a Henry standpoint or anybody in that category where you're better off taking the risk at 2+ for a guy that's had a bunch in recent times, especially I would think if you're riding the Bills today.
Plus 200 that Singletary finds the end zone?
Plus 100, even money for an anytime.
Oh,
plus 500 for 2+ TDs.
No, I don't. I think it's the receivers that are doing the business. And Dawson Knox for the Bills today. And Josh Allen.
No rushing scores for the Bills.
Not Singletary.
Even though Singletary's been
I can see Allen running in. Look, they're at the 1 yard line. You're rooting like somebody gets tagged at the 1 yard line and they hand it off. And then, Singletary's become that guy. But yeah, I think it's kind of specific where you're like, I don't see Singletary busting out a huge run in this game. I don't think that he gets a ton of touches this game. I'm going under on the rushing yardage for Singletary today, which is in the 50s. I feel pretty comfortable with that one. I think it's as high as even 60 somewhere. You could find that. So that's, I wouldn't love that is even money.
60.5. Well, I'm staying away from his rushing entirely. But for a guy who's had 2 TDs and 2 of his last 3 mentioned, he's been on a scoring
He's been on a tear.
streak right
He
here.
has.
Yeah.
He has.
Yeah. So just looking at it from the standpoint of, I'd rather play him 2+ at 500 than in any time here, because I would think that, to your point, if he's out of the game plan, he's out of the game plan. But if he's in the game plan, we've seen this recently where he's capital IN in the game plan. Like it's volatile, right? It seems like it's one or the other.
Bill's got to be playing from ahead. I mean, that's what you're looking at. I think that's what it takes for Devin Singletary to take off in this game. Maybe that means the Kansas City offense struggling a little bit, not getting it in gear. I mean, I would think it's that kind of game, and that's just not what I envision for this Bills Chiefs game. And I think when the line for the over-unders at 54.5, that's you're kind of looking at the passing being a factor here. I remember, of course,
go over that.
Oh. I would go over it. I would go over it.
Well, you've been talking high scoring fireworks all game. I hope for the sake of
I don't think either of these teams are like, we're going to settle for a field goal here. I think, there's respect on both of these teams, what they could do offensively. They know they need points. They know they need points to win. And
it's a lot of points.
I know it's a ton of points. It's a ton of points. But, look at the Chiefs in recent weeks. They put up touchdowns. They've been scoring touchdowns. This is a game that at halftime could be 28-24. Right? I mean, who's turning that down? They played a very high-scoring game earlier this year.
Yep.
I don't love either of these defenses. The Bills' defense hasn't been as good the second half as the first half. Losing Tre'Davious White is a huge blow, obviously. Chiefs have improved, but they ain't perfect. We could still have that Sorensen mess up at some point in this game where you see him trailing on a play, right? I felt like we saw that like 4 weeks in a row earlier in the year. But that's just the way that I look at this guy. I think you have points. Real quick, and then I'll let you get in a last point.
No, go ahead.
Yahoo Fantasy. If you're not playing there, you got to be playing there. Get in there. You get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. If you are a new user to Yahoo, all you got to do is sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. Yahoo contests today include the NFL $500,000 Sunday Baller. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections at Awesemo, designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. Final thoughts, Eytan.
Well, I'll say this. Odd Shopper is in love with, I think, every single under that I can see here from this game. All weekend. It's been like that. So keep that in mind by all means. And if you are on the opposite end of it, where you want fireworks and you want points like our own Pete McCarthy here, Allen Mahomes to combine for 550 plus passing yards and 5+ TDs plus 230 back.
I would do that.
Not terrible. Not terrible.
No, not terrible at all.
We can end on something we agree with. I love it.
We got one thing we're in lockstep.
No, two. I think there was one earlier at the 40 mark.
Yes. Okay. So we got a couple of things here, but keep it on my differing perspectives, right? That's what it's all
love
about.
It, brother.
Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways, and much, much more. This has been the Awesemo Betting Show presented by Yahoo. We're just getting started. NFL Deeper Dive coming up next, followed by NFL Live Before Lock, taking up to kickoff 3:00. Rams, Bucks starting it up once again. Another big NFL doubleheader. Eytan, Shander, pleasure as always. I'm Pete McCarthy. Happy betting.
See you.
Fort Minor.
Yeah, what's that?
Or Fort Minor.
Yeah, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NFL Deeper Dive. Yes, I'm sure you're sick of seeing my face, but I'm back with you for another edition of the NFL Deeper Dive. Josh Engelman stuck somewhere at an airport or something like that, but that's okay because we had a lot of fun yesterday, Ben Rasa and myself. That man was right about some things as well, you know, so we'll try and run it back again today for a Sunday slate. A lot of huge contests once again. Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on Twitter, joined by Matt Savoca at Draftaholic with the sick new background, man. That just looks good.
Yeah, oh, thanks, man. Shout out to Eric on the Awesemo graphics team. You absolutely crushed it. I mean, I'm just completely blown away. It was like a whole maneuver to get my old set together. So moving to a green screen has been great for my life. And can I just say, like, when does the actual football start? Because I've been waiting all weekend, and what the heck happened in those two games yesterday? I had no idea what just occurred.
Dude, San Fran won without an offensive touchdown, first of all.
Right?
And you know, it's crazy. I was reading a lot of things like previews and just seeing where each of the teams, like home reporters and writers were on each of them going into the game like a couple days ago. And both of them go, this game could legitimately be won on special teams. They have two of the worst special teams units in the league. And Green Bay was already coughing up big returns. But my God, I mean, you punt out of around your end zone. It's unthinkable, really, that it could have been that bad. Did you see how many receptions anyone other than Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones had?
I saw that box score. It's like 9, and then like one or two receptions, something ridiculous. Yeah.
And Garoppolo didn't have a completion until 6 minutes or 5 minutes left in the second quarter.
Right. Basically, neither team showed up after that first Packers drive. And somehow San Francisco wins that game. I think the Green Bay Packers, they had obviously a lot of questions going into the offseason, but the first order of business, I know this person probably has a family. They need to launch their special teams coordinator into this.
For sure. Dre Thomas, you guys called it horribly yesterday. Thanks, pal. Glad to see you're back for more.
Thanks. Cool.
I mean, Ben was spot on with it. He's like, I'm not prioritizing Henry. I'm not prioritizing Devontae Adams. If you didn't prioritize any of those guys on the full slate right now, you should at least be doing okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I said be overweight on Aaron Jones and his own.
The literal last thing I said is watch out for those running backs who are just coming back from injury. You know, obviously Fournette plays today. Like,
yeah,
we got some stuff.
Henry still hit the over on the rushing attempts too, so that was good because. But yeah, Mitchell was a big disappointment, which is crazy because in a game like that, you would think that, you know, a one-score game the entire time, you would have thought that he would have done more. It was a weird day for sure, but AJ Brown was very good, man.
Yeah.
And he was very, very good. Did any quarterback do anything significant?
No, I mean, Burrow had an okay day.
Yeah.
Certainly not like a have to have it score. That's going to come from one of the quarterbacks tonight.
Ready to have some fun, Matt?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
All right.
go.
Oh, Bad said I rewatched the last LA game, and I think you're wrong about Akers. He's electric. You could absolutely be right about that. You could absolutely be right. I'm not sold quite yet, but I will say that even though he looked electric, he still only had 10 fantasy points, and now he faces Tampa today. It's a hill I'm willing to die on, Matt, at least for today. Very good. Like I said, go to Twitter, shit on me if I'm wrong for this one. That's okay. The one spot that I just don't have a lot of confidence in, and it's a perfect time to dive into it right now because we're talking about the Rams. Oh, hit that thumbs up too if you haven't done so yet. We're not even at 200 yet. We're coming in from another show. We got 1,500 people watching. Yeah, let's get to 300 here.
Awesome.
We got 98 to go now. So much appreciated in advance. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. And if you want to join the channels or the channel here, get the custom emojis, the badges, the free super chats each month. And always will prioritize your questions and comments along with our premium Discord members in chat. Hit that join now right there. Oh, and Jordan actually threw it in there as well. So good stuff. All right, Matt, when it comes to the Rams, I mean, the biggest thing for me is this backfield to start. We'll get into Stafford and Kupp and all of that good stuff. But last game, they were in a position where they didn't have to throw. You and I said in the Thursday matchup show, they're already, I believe not Tampa, but LA has the lowest game script adjusted run play percentage in the league. So in a spot like this, I am curious. I think you and I are different. I have a little bit different opinions here, but it's kind of a run funnel spot. Someone mentioned on the chat yesterday, and if they make good points, I'll always acknowledge it, that Tampa is not good when you run outside against them, and Akers can do that. Totally agree. I still don't love him on this slate, though, because there's a lot of other running backs at a similar price point that I'm pretty interested in. But maybe you have an entirely different view of this.
Yeah, I just feel like Tampa Bay's defense is a liability. Do I know enough about how NFL coordinators are going to get their teams ready that the run to the outside is definitely the backbreaker against this team? I don't know enough here, but I do know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers struggled in yards per attempt on the ground over the last few weeks of the season. We're talking like bottom 5 in the league, bringing them to 21st in the league in yards per carry on the season. I know that there's a little bit of variability here, but we're not talking about an elite defensive line, which I still think is the general perception of the public when they think about Tampa Bay. We're still talking about a timeshare here in the backfield. And so Cam Akers is a good player, and it's astonishing how quickly he's gotten back from this injury. I mean, all the power to him. It's awesome. But I still think Sony Michel gets involved. You know how much I like that stat, expected fantasy points per game.
Yes,
now we're starting to get enough of a sample size with Cam Akers where we can start to see, okay, he's got 10 expected fantasy points per game. He's definitely in the you can play him category, even as the 3rd highest salary running back on this slate. But Sony Michel, you know, obviously his role is changing actively because of Akers being more and more utilized, but he's still at 16 expected fantasy points per game. I don't think that suddenly goes to 0. I think that probably hovers right around 10, and you're talking about a lower salary player, albeit just slightly lower. I do think these are good tournament options. I have them at the Rams as the 2nd most pass heavy team in game script adjusted pass rate, but they are the fastest team in terms of game script adjusted pace of play. So, I mean, I think those games yesterday, Laffy, are the exact reasons why we harp on things like passing and pace of play. There were no plays in those games yesterday.
You're right.
They just ran, and the clock continued to run, and that's why the games stayed relatively close, sure. But this is why we harp on trying to find game environments that can bring you to multiple fantasy scores. I still think that you could play a Rams stack and still play a Rams running back here in especially like small field tournaments.
I almost like that more than playing them solo, to be honest with you. I'm not saying you can't, but I mean, it is like Akers isn't getting a huge amount of ownership, but 36% is still a decent amount when like, how convinced are you, right? We got to dig into this. This is a big part. And I'm, like I said, I'm 100% willing to change my mind on this, change my mind, Matt. If Sonny Michel played 40% of snaps last week and Akers played 53%, granted, coming back 5.5 months removed from a ruptured Achilles, I mean, props to the guy, right? It's crazy. And only 5 carries in week 18. He did see 3 targets as well. Is it not possible though that Sonny Michel might end up being the hot hand and they end up splitting, or McVay ends up giving Sonny Michel more work, or they just only run the ball like 18, 20 total times and it's 12-8 Cam Akers?
Yeah, I think
it's all in the range of outcomes. You would agree, right?
Absolutely. And really what we saw in that game against the Cardinals, it's been like Sonny Michel like crack a 45-yard run like to start the game and finish with under 60 yards rushing, 60 total yards. So yeah. I see this Rams backfield as 2 gigantic plays, one in the receiving game for Cam Akers, one in the rushing game for Sonny Michel, and the rest was just kind of like them running the ball when they needed to run the ball. I definitely think that we haven't even talked about the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary is a huge liability here. And the Rams have players like, I don't know, Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham that can beat you over the top. So, we're harping on this running back position because getting it right will help you so much, particularly on this 1-game slate. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed are the worst defense left in the NFC. They could be a huge liability here. Remember just a few weeks ago against the Jets, they looked like the Jets looked like a playoff team against them.
Yeah, are they going to be able to get pressure too? I mean, I think they probably will. That's the thing. I mean, I'm not necessarily sure the Rams offensive line, which had been a liability to close out the season, I'm not sure how well that holds up. And then we'll have to get into the Bucs offensive line, right? With Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Jensen. It looks like he's good. I don't think we have word on Wirfs yet, do we?
I did not see this morning. Check it out.
That's big news that we're waiting on. I mean,
yes, sir.
Brady is not a guy that routinely gets sacked or is under pressure and has hands in his face. The Eagles stunk in that game, but they were getting a lot of pressure once those guys went down. So we'll see. I think Jensen came back and finished the game, but Wirfs came back from a series and came out after that. Somebody asked too, and I will just jump ahead of this because I think it's a fine question. Do we fade Singletary if you're going with Josh Allen? I don't think you have to at all. I know that Allen cannibalizes some of that rushing upside, but since week 14, when Devin Singletary started seeing 80+% snaps per game, and we'll talk about all this, but I'd forget otherwise. He's run 174 routes. Like Gabe Davis has run 181. Diggs is at 231. So if they are throwing the football, then Devin Singletary probably ends up playing a pretty significant role. So we'll get to all of that and more. But Matt, Cooper Kupp. Let me go back to what Ben was saying yesterday and see where you're at here. Granted, that was 4 games we were talking about, but is Cooper Kupp a priority if you're building lineups? It's so easy in a vacuum just to be like, yeah, Cooper Kupp, easiest, best play of the slate. But is he a priority when you have Evans and Hill and Diggs and all of these guys at really palatable price points and all of these running backs in the mid-range that you can just build out a beautiful balanced lineup? Or is Kupp still a guy that you're looking to jam into lineups?
See, I kind of think Kupp is a priority.
Okay.
I feel like there is another monster game bubbling under the surface here for Cooper Kupp. And I certainly have been looking at the numbers and his usage has been down, particularly in the red zone, but we haven't seen him Kupp have more than 7 targets in 3 straight contests here. Now, I know game script has had some things to do with that, but clearly they're interested in using players like Odell Beckham in the red zone who continues to score and just take away overall production, ceiling production, we should say, from Cooper Kupp. But I think there still is like a 25, 30-point game in this range of outcomes against a Tampa Bay secondary that could really have their hands full against this Los Angeles passing attack that is significantly more healthy than Tom Brady's pass attack on the other side. So I do think that the Rams lean on the passing game and not the running game. So it's funny that we started by breaking down the rushing attack because I do think that's just going to be used as a natural balancing point to their passing attack, which has the ceiling of the highest or the best passing team in the league.
All right. So Cooper Kupp, you are viewing him right now as a priority, which is totally reasonable. But it's just the reason I phrase it that way or frame it that way is because it's amazing to think that even though I think he has like the best PPR season since the inception of DFS, right? As a wide receiver, I think he does. I think it was better than Michael Thomas, but he's $2,000 more expensive than Tyreek Hill. He's on DraftKings. He's $2,100 more expensive than Stephon Diggs. So that's definitely going to, create at least a conversation point here. But again, he's the highest owned wide receiver in our ownership projections too.
Yeah, I don't even have a problem with it. Especially if you're playing the 1-game slate, you're in a 2-game slate, especially if you're not used to playing like NBA DFS where there are often 2 or 3 game slates, you're going to see Cooper Kupp's ownership get crazy high, especially in small field tournaments. Even if you're playing 3 lineups, it's okay to say the anchor point of my day is, does Cooper Kupp hit his ceiling? That's fine. That's a fine bet to make. I'm not saying the most likely thing is Cooper Kupp hits a 30-point game, but I think Cooper Kupp's probability of having that have-to-have-it tournament score is increased a little bit more than people may realize because of the liability that the Tampa Bay secondary has been late.
When it comes to Kupp, it's a little bit easier than trying to figure out what we want to do with Beckham, what we want to do with Van Jefferson, who's been somewhat of an afterthought recently, just really underperforming, but his price continues to fall, which I think actually makes him pretty interesting. And then you've got guys like Tyler Higbee as well, who another reasonably priced option. This is such an intriguing stack to me, Matt, because and more so on a site like DraftKings than on Yahoo, our sponsor Yahoo, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But like Stafford's $6,200. Okay, Mahomes is 76, 73, Allen 76, Brady 68. Stafford by far the cheapest quarterback. And then all of the secondary options outside of Cooper Kupp are also really cheap. Beckham's 5,300, but there's a lot of different ways to still get Cooper Kupp with this stack and not really spend all that much of your salary.
I entirely agree. And what's really interesting is Los Angeles is a really potent offense for being the lowest implied total team on this 4-game slate. So I just think that in our top stacks value ranking, we're already seeing them as a really strong value. They're number 1 on this 1-game slate, or 2-game slate here, this 1-day slate, I should say. I'm really seeing both Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee as more puzzle pieces. I can't really read the tea leaves and who's going to get the most usage. I see them as 4K or 4.2K access to what could be one of the best value stacks on the entire slate. Just tack on a Stafford and a Beckham or a Stafford and a Kupp, and I feel like either one of them make for great plays. I'm not really getting to both Jefferson and Higbee. I guess you could make an argument for something like Kupp and then one of Jefferson and Higbee and then one of the running backs and then just forgetting Stafford, but I'm not really getting there in my life.
I do like the over on passing yards for Stafford today too. We've got him projected at 296. Best bet out there, according to Odd Shopper, is FanDuel at 278.5, only minus 110 on the over too. 14% XRI, 60% expected win rate. So nothing insane, but still one of those spots where I think you could see Matthew Stafford forced to throw the ball a lot today, and this becomes a real shootout down there at Raymond James Stadium. So that's one I like. We did pretty well with the prop game yesterday on the deeper dive, Matt. Looking to keep it going again today. Do you got anything you like? You got anything you like from a betting perspective from this game?
Yeah, I was surprised to see us so bullish on the passing yards and then the passing touchdowns under 2.5. I guess that number is really high, but I think 3 touchdowns is in the range of outcomes. I guess it's the 2 versus 3, right? We have him projected for 1.7, so 3 is not out of the range of outcomes, but a 75% win percentage for under 2.5. Passing touchdowns for Matthew Stafford is something where it's just a trust the math situation, even though I like the player and I like the stacks. And honestly, that's a great differentiator between something like prop bet, where we're really playing a probability game, especially when you're parlaying, you're just trying to create that best probability you can. And in DFS, we're looking for unlikely outcomes that aren't quite as unlikely as the public realizes. And so that's why we spend so much time in DFS talking about range of outcomes and so much time in the betting world talking about, is this happening or not? Because we can just put straight probabilities on.
Anything else for the offense for the Rams?
I think we covered it there. Odell Beckham is touchdown dependent right now in his fantasy production, but that's not a mistake. It's the way that they're using him. I don't think they're going to move away from him, especially when they get in the red zone. Definitely on the table. All
right, good stuff. Tampa Bay, and yeah, someone in chat did mention, yeah, Tampa got some players back on defense too. Like that is over that they had been missing at times throughout the end of the season. It is significant. I still think though, just from a matchup standpoint, the Rams match up very good against the Tampa Bay Bucs on both sides of the football. I really do. So this is a spot where I think the spread makes total sense. Not that it shouldn't anyway, right? But 2.5 point dogs, 48 point total. I know Eric mentioned earlier in the week that he could see all dogs winning, which isn't really, it's not a hot take, but I think it's a good take, just given that they're all very close spreads. Buffalo's down to only 1 point dog in Kansas City. But yeah, the Rams could undoubtedly win this game and could do so quite easily. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. And I like the passing offense because I think outside of Cooper Kupp, there's so many ways to get creative with that and not have to spend a ton. With Tampa Bay, it's a little bit different. They're not crazy expensive. Mike Evans is 6,800. He's expensive on Yahoo though. Like Tyreek Hill's $23 on Yahoo and Mike Evans is 30. So that's a huge difference, right? I think like Diggs is 25 and again, Mike Evans is 30. I think Gronk's only a couple dollars less expensive than Travis Kelce too. So these are certain things that we have to at least consider, Matt, when we're looking at pricing and we're building our rosters. But on DraftKings, it's not that hard to get there. Gronk 58, Evans 68. Do you like the Tampa stack today? And last question, I'll say this, and I'll shut up. Every one of these teams has viable stacks. Like yesterday, it was Garoppolo got the shoulder, got the thumb. Tannehill with Derrick Henry back. They going to want to run the ball. Nobody really looked great as a stack on the Saturday only slate. On this one, you could close your eyes, pick a quarterback, and when you open them, you'd be like, oh, okay, I can live with that.
I completely agree. And so if you want to mix and match stacks, Matt Kajeski and I kind of got in a conversation on Live Before Lock about this yesterday. And it really comes down to they all look like good plays. So some DFS players, when everybody looks good, they'll put all their chips down on one or two of them. So with that, when they're right, they're going to move ahead of the field. But that's really what we're seeing here. Tom Brady stacks have a slightly lower value in the top stack probability ranking, but that doesn't mean they're bad stacks at all. In fact, if you look at the amount of team cumulative PPR fantasy points, the Buccaneers were essentially number one all season long. A little bit of drop off at the end of the year, as you would expect with the personnel changes. But I kind of see it as a likely pace up game where the Rams are going to push them offensively to continue to score. And we know where this offense wants to go in the passing game. I think Mike Evans is a player who doesn't have a projection ahead of salary-based expectation, but they have a ceiling that is within the range of Cooper Kupps and the Tyreek Hills of this slate. And with Rob Gronkowski, I think you're actually going to need a big game from him because the Rams are number one defense left in the playoffs in terms of PFF team defensive grades. That's led by top players like Aaron Donald, who's definitely going to get to the quarterback today, and Jalen Ramsey. So Gronk over the middle on short passes is going to be something that they are necessarily going to need if they want to continue to move the chains and keep scoring up here.
No question. And I mean, look, this offensive line news is significant. So I'm waiting on Wirfs. So that is one. Just make sure we haven't gotten anything yet, because it has to be in. What
Jensen is in, right? And I think he's the one who actually is. It's good that he's a slightly healthier, right? Because he's the one who's going to see Donald coming up the middle, more often. So if he goes down again, that is a disaster.
Last I looked, they were both questionable, but Jensen was expected to play. So We'll see. Anyway, it's still worth keeping an eye on. But the one thing I like about Evans is not that like he's the most reliable week in and week out, but there's no Godwin and Antonio Brown anymore, which is huge. But also, if there's ever a guy that could just rip off 3 touchdowns, Mike Evans is that guy, right? I mean, in this offense, he is a threat for multiple touchdowns all the time. He has 4 games this season with 2+ touchdowns. That's what he does, right? And then he has games where he kind of disappears as well. But I just don't anticipate that being the case. 2 teams that prioritize the pass, they're pass first teams, and they're down 2 of their top wide receivers that they would have had going into this game. So I still like Evan. I just like him a lot more where you're not paying way more for him than you are for Tyreek Hill. Although
it's annoying.
Yeah,
the salary.
But I will say this much, like that can work out. Yesterday, the perfect example, and we talked about this, Ben and I talked about this a ton, why this made it a decent play was Aaron Jones being more expensive than a lot of those, 5K guys, and not many people were going to really reach for him there, especially because his status was kind of uncertain coming back from having that banged up knee. But yeah, so I'm fine getting to him. I just like him a little bit more on DraftKings. I love Leonard Fournette, though, and the field does too. He's going to be very popular. We have him projected as the highest owned player on the slate. At this point, though, and Bruce Arians said he's not going to activate him unless he's a full go, right? Unless he can run at full speed, unless he's 100%. So I'm hoping, Matt, that that's exactly what we have here. I don't know. But if it is the case, you're talking about a guy who has been targeted 6+ times now in every game since week 10, with multiple 7, 8, 9 target games mixed in along the way.
Scares me, man. I see the range of outcomes is so high for him. Like he could pop his hammy again in the first quarter. And I know like that is a losing battle trying to predict injuries here, even for players who are just coming off injured reserve. But it does feel like overuse right away would be something that might re-aggravate that injury. I do think Gio Bernard gets mixed in. And yet I gotta acknowledge the fact that 2 touchdowns and even, 75 total yards is a pretty easy outcome in this game environment on this offense here for their bell cow running back. They're definitely going to need him. Ronald Jones long been ruled out in this game. Expected fantasy points per game. Again, those are only the games that he's played over the last 6 weeks of the regular season. Leonard Fournette was number 1 among all running backs on this slate at 18 expected fantasy points per game. I think you gotta say it's in the range of possibilities, and at 5,700 on DraftKings, he's sort of that skeleton key that helps you get up to those premium salary players that you want to prioritize here. I don't feel really good about it, but seeing that optimal lineup score at like 58%, he's one of the best plays on the slate. Just what the math says.
And like you can talk about the fact that Gio Bernard is back, but even before Gio Bernard went down after week 14.
Geonard. That sounds like a Pokemon or something.
What does?
Geonard. I don't know.
Oh, is that what I misspoke? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even before that, though, Fournette was getting all of the targets anyway. So
yeah,
I'm not too concerned that this is going to be a spot where Fournette doesn't get a full workload. I think he probably will. They waived Le'Veon Bell. So now you got Bernard, you got Vaughn, and you got Fournette. I don't even know if Barner is going to be dressed. I don't know. That means
nothing. I saw the release of Bell as Fournette is healthy enough and Vaughn looked good enough that that's the crew they're going to go with.
That's my guess. So I think Fournette is a spectacular play. Anytime. I think he's the best play. I think he's the best running back on the slate. And I'm not saying anything we don't already know, Matt, but I'm just, I think the ownership does make sense. Like you mentioned, his optimal score in our boom bust tool is really high. And it's just targets are worth more than carries. And when you're getting
Lofty, we just got some huge news. Lindquist, Eric is in the chat. Thank you, Eric. Wirfs is
Tristan.
Inactive.
Inactive. Yeah. Sorry.
Inactive. So
that's big.
That's big. That's big. And guys, thank you for the super chats. I think we've gotten 3 since the stream has started.
I'm going to hit on all of them. They're just mostly for the second game. So.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Jordan, if you can, and if you do want to super chat, greatly appreciate it. But just to make it easier for you guys as well and all of us, hit us when we're talking about that game. It makes it a little bit easier so we can flow that into the conversation and not go all over the place. But yeah, appreciate you guys for sure. I love Fournette, and I don't think there's enough here to say that Bernard is a viable pivot in tournaments because he's not priced at the floor. He's $700 less than Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. No, it's one of those things where I don't really know if we've seen what Tampa Bay actually wants to do with Gio Bernard because he just hasn't been healthy enough for most of the season. So I'm kind of interested. This could turn into a full-blown 3-person committee, couldn't it? With like Leonard Fournette getting a series or 2, and then Keyshawn Vaughn getting like every 3rd or 4th series. Gio Bernard getting a 3rd down roll. You don't think that's possible at all? You think
my God, Jordan, that sneeze is the wildest thing I've ever seen. Is that a sneeze? That scared me. That's what we need producer cam for. No, I don't think so, Matt. I mean, Leonard Fournette is clearly Arians' guy when he's healthy.
Playoff Lenny is absolutely okay. I mean, it's definitely something that is firmly in the range of outcomes. I mean, I'm quibbling over a player who has a 58.8% optimal lineup percentage on DraftKings right now in our latest run.
Hey, you were right about Akers last week, so.
Yeah, I'm talking about contrarian what ifs here. That's all I'm really.
I got you. It's just so tough for me to see him coming back and not being the guy, especially after how they used him in the playoffs last year. We'll see. So are you saying then you want to come in underweight on Fournette? Time to give where you're actually at here.
I think I am underweight on Fournette, but he's still one of the value pieces that I'm using to get to premium players. So I'm not that far under the field. Sometimes it's annoying to say, but like I'm using ownership as my guide, and I'm just going a little bit under that to be varying a little more often in my lineup. Okay.
So one thing that's significant as we get these inactives, right, is we knew that Cyril Grayson was looking like he was trending down towards not playing. He's out. Brashad Perriman, who did play in week 19, wild card round, is out. That does open things up for a Tyler Johnson. I mean, I think at this stage of the game, Tyler Johnson has to be someone who was already involved last week that we're looking at if you're not going to a Mike Evans or Rob Gronkowski, or if you are and you're just stacking them, but you don't want to get both of them into the lineup to free up salary elsewhere. I mean, you're going to have to throw somewhere. They like to throw the football. Yes, Fournette is back, but for me, Tyler Johnson is very much a viable play here, especially given how seldom they've been using someone like Scotty Miller opposed to last year when they had injuries.
And this team like desperately needs some speed. They have no speed whatsoever. I mean, Gronk and Evans on the outside, it's not like they're like completely decrepit, but they're not known for their speed, agility. I'm surprised they're not using Scotty Miller more often. And even Tyler Johnson, he runs a 4.7. I mean, there's just not a lot of ability for explosive plays here. And you got Jalen Ramsey on the other side of the field. I think I'm not going to rule Tom Brady out of any game here. And you can lose a lot of money over the years betting against Tom Brady. I'll tell you that. But I think that this team matches up pretty poorly against the Rams. Not saying they definitely lose here, but no, I just think I worry that any of these auxiliary options are going to be afterthoughts if this team finds itself in a close game or coming back from behind.
All right. Anything else for Tampa?
We didn't really talk about Gronkowski, but all that much other than he's a great play. He's the best projected player on DraftKings, and he's the second highest salary player. So even at the top there, that little bit of value is really important. And I know OddsShopper has a crazy high expected win rate for under 17.5 receiving yards for Cameron Brate, but he is a player on the slate that I'm going to in large field tournaments at 2,700. As what the heck?
Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Yeah, big one over there today. $500,000. Made me happy too. We had a couple people reach out to Awesemo Hall of Fame yesterday, being like, "Hey, finally signed up for Yahoo." Quite frankly, I don't know what took you so long, but I'm glad to see you over there. And took down 4-figure wins on their first time playing at Yahoo. Great stuff, man. $20 entry today, though. $500K in prizes. Oh, no management fee on this. Other sites may call that rake, for those of you wondering. No management fee on this at all. So you've got what? How many? 25,000 entries. And yeah, this is why I love it. They're paying out 5,000 of 25,000, Matt, but you double up even if you min cash. Find that at another site. You won't.
That's great. That's free money right there.
You won't find it elsewhere. I'm telling you the truth. Like, they had the 100K baller tonight for the Showdown, and a bunch of other big contests. Oh, the everyone wins divisional special today, 50K. Another everyone win. They're literally just giving away money right now, and it's a awesome place to play. I've been getting it on Yahoo every day. Use the link though that we have in the description, or the one that Jordan Klein already did or is going to put in the chat, and you'll get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum on top of that. Every tool that we have on the site: ownership, boom bust tool, top stacks, player projections, lineup builder. If you want to get a fantasy cruncher add-on, you can do that as well. All of our tools, though, built by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself. It's definitely worth it. You're getting it for free entire month, every single sport, every single tool that we have. And they'll give you $10 in free credit when you sign up using the link as well over at Yahoo. Inject that free play right into your account. Seriously, best contest structure, best payout structure you're going to find. Big contests as well. It's not just like one of those sites where you go, you know, everyone wins and it's a $3,000 prize pool. No, you got a $500,000 prize pool, 100K up top this afternoon. So jump in, use the link, and when you do, and you get your free month of Awesemo, join our premium Discord as well. And if you want to expedite the process and get into all of our content like right away, if you email us at support@awesemo.com, we will do our best to speed it up for you and get you in there by today. I mean, why wouldn't you do this? Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, let's do it, Matt. We got one up, one to go. Buffalo, Kansas City. Someone said earlier, watch Laffy's going to say Devin Singletary's a lock over Fournette. No, certainly not. I just think both of them are good plays today. We have 2 games. There's no lock over another player. Like, it's not going to work that way. Singletary is very popular. He's probably going to play 90% of snaps today. They're 1-point dogs, 54-point total. And you can't say this about a lot of backs anymore. I think Singletary is becoming that back that will be game script proof, Matt, in the sense that he probably will get the large majority, if not all of the passing down work out of the backfield in the event that things get ugly or go sideways and they need to throw. So yeah, I think Devin Singletary's workload kind of speaks for itself since week 14.
I do. Let me say this. I'd
love to hear the devil's advocate
going into the week. So I felt like Devin Singletary had kind of played himself into that bell cow role. And then I looked at the point differentials in their most recent wins, and they've been on a hot streak here, 5 wins in a row for Buffalo. 31-14 over Carolina, 33-21 over New England, 29-15 over Atlanta, 27-10 against the Jets, and then 47-17 in that they essentially bowled a perfect game there against the Patriots in a true statement win in the wild card weekend. They are still 30th in game script adjusted rush rate, only behind the Rams and the Buccaneers in that rush rate, meaning that they're just not in neutral game scripts right now. And that coincides entirely with the time that Devin Singletary has seen increased usage. Now, I'm not saying that efficiency and that production on that usage doesn't mean anything for this team. It certainly means something. He's earned himself the right to get more touches. I'm not saying he hasn't, but I'm just saying they have found themselves in a lot of advantageous game scripts that a game against the Chiefs in Arrowhead in January doesn't necessarily lend themselves toward. It could absolutely happen here. I certainly have plenty of him, but I just want to mention that you're talking about the highest salary running back on the DraftKings slate here at 5,900. You're not talking about a huge investment, but there are ways that this fails pretty easily.
I agree. But I do think you're missing something, which is before they were a pass-heavy team, and he was splitting work with Zach Moss. Now he's getting all of the available work in the backfield. So he could end up playing more of a Leonard Fournette role if that ends up being the case, where you're getting a lot of where if it goes ugly or it isn't a neutral game script, then he's getting work in the passing game. He's also become the clear goal line back. Obviously, Josh Allen is side by side with him there, but before it was Zach Moss, and Devin Singletary wouldn't sniff the end zone, right? So
yeah, that's true.
I think just in terms of his role, forget about the workload, just in terms of his role, he's going to be the guy on the field. That's what I'm saying. He's probably going to be on the field for 90% of snaps today, assuming it's not a huge blowout like it was last week. That's what I'm saying. So I take that into consideration, that if he's on the field, there's opportunity, especially when he's ran 180 routes over the last 6 weeks, that he should be able to produce one way or another.
I agree. I mean, look, we're talking about how does this fail? Not this is going to fail, right? And
right. Oh, yeah,
the reason I use expected fantasy points, because I don't know how to parse together routes run versus targets versus carries and game scripts and how pass heavy a team is. Parsing those things all together, contextualizing them all together is hard work. So I use roll up metrics like expected fantasy points that use all those metrics to try to explain on a scale that I can understand how much that volume is worth for Devin Singletary. And 17 expected fantasy points per game is second best on this slate over the last 6 weeks of the regular season, only behind Leonard Fournette. And then he's got 3.5 fantasy points over expectation in that time. That's second among all running backs on the slate. So he's a good player playing well on a good team despite being an underdog. We're talking about a player, again, who's over a 47% chance of being in the optimal lineup. I just want to say, here are the reasons you would choose to fade him. And, again, this is another running back that I'm using ownership as my guide, and I'm probably going to be right with the field with him. I don't have anything against Singletary.
Okay. No, I think you make all completely reasonable points. I also think this could be like a 7-target game for him, as we saw against Tampa Bay back in week 14, where they kind of abandoned the run. I don't want to see that either, right? I don't want to see him completely abandon the run. But yeah, when it comes to the passing game, Josh Allen's price point on Yahoo is, I don't want to say it's inexplicable, but compared to everybody else, it did surprise me a little bit. I mean, at quarterback, he's $43, okay, on a $200 budget. $43, yeah. Patrick Mahomes is 34. Stafford is 29. Brady's 35. He's not just more expensive than every quarterback. He is insanely more expensive than every other quarterback. I mean, he's $8, which is a lot on Yahoo, more expensive than the next closest player. It's crazy.
That's too much of a differentiator when you have that many players who can get there.
It makes it tough.
Mahomes on the other side. I guess that Allen's game environment is probably the best on the slate, considering that he's in the highest total game, and the Kansas City defense, I don't think you can make any argument, is worse than the Buffalo defense. So his matchup is better than Mahomes' matchup on the other side of this game. I feel like it's point chasing a little bit with that salary. 38 fantasy points like he had last week. That's certainly in the range of outcomes. They might need it against the Chiefs today, but I think you're probably most likely seeing 25 fantasy points. And that means he has a good day. It just doesn't mean he has a blow you out of the water score. I think on DraftKings, I'm definitely going there. I love skinny stacks with or without Stephon Diggs. I'm not saying Allen is a bad play. He could break this slate, absolutely. But he should not have an $8 difference in salary from the rest of the.
Damn, 400 plus likes already. We only mentioned it at the top of the show. Appreciate you. We're cruising past 500, 2,300 people watching. Trying to make the best of our Sunday. Like you said, Matt, maybe we'll see some good football today. We got Live Before Lock coming up after this as well. Don't go anywhere. Eric Lindquist, Jordan Vanek taking you up to kickoff at 3 p.m. So this should be fun. Don't go anywhere. Hang out with us as we cruise through these games here. And good time to hit on some super chats. Let's do this. All right. Sammy, I'll get to that one once we get to Kansas City. I didn't forget you. I did miss this one from Viewboy. I can't pronounce it, bud. What's the weakest part of the Bucs defense? Is it their secondary? Yeah, no question.
Yep,
it is.
It is.
And thanks. Clownin says either Bucs Rams going to be at least 4 or 5 in optimal recency bias, but look at how those cold weather games went yesterday. I just Stevie Wonder pick. Yeah, but look at how that cold weather game went in Buffalo. Josh Allen, they scored 7 touchdowns. I think they scored on like every single drive. So, it's one of those things. John 717 Sports Chat Live says John Brown elevated from Bucs practice squad, 4,500 on FanDuel. Thoughts? I mean, I don't think you need to get there unless Matt, you have some thoughts. But I think John Brown's one of those guys that you could probably forego on this slate. I'd rather go to Tyler Johnson, who has far more of a rapport with Brady and has been in this offense for a while. But maybe John Brown's that speed guy, and you hope that he does like a Deshaun Jackson where he's got the 2 for 75 and one of them goes for a touchdown. But that's your only hope, in my opinion.
It does kind of feel like if you activate him, you put him on the field, you probably dial up one shot for him.
That's what I'm saying. It could be the Deshaun Jackson role.
Yeah, and I just went on a diatribe earlier when we were talking about that game about they need some speed. Technically, John Brown had the fastest 40 of any wide receiver on that receiving corps. I don't know what age has done here, but
yeah, we'll see. He's minimum salary, so could it be John Brown that ends up being the guy that gets you there? Maybe. I don't know. But this is also two games that are projected to be really high scoring, and I think you at least have to consider that. There's a lot of players elsewhere that can put up big numbers. If this was yesterday's slate and like John Brown had a similar role in another team and you just wanted to throw a dart there, I think it'll make a little bit more sense. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know, man. Maybe it happens. Maybe he comes in and gets a couple targets. But Matt, would you agree that it would really just be probably 1 or 2 deep balls potentially that get him there? I don't see him having an integral role in this offense at all.
I think that's super low probability, but we at least have to acknowledge the fact that there is a legitimate void that they don't care how old, what you look like. They need somebody to fill that secondary receiver role there. Stat.
Yeah, we've seen it before. Is my mic messed up, Jordan? I'm good. All right. Oh, he sounded.
Oh, no.
You're fine, dude. I wouldn't worry about it. You can catch everything you're saying. Jordan Lockhart with the super chat. Thanks, Lafayette, Matt. As always, appreciate you, gents. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire today. Or do y'all think he busts? We'll get to that as well, for sure. All right, Matt, let's finish up with Buffalo here. We talked about Singletary. You don't have anything else in the backfield, right? Like you would at least agree that Singletary is the guy that's getting, unless he's injured, he's going to be on the field.
Absolutely. Okay. Especially because of how much Josh Allen takes away from any secondary running option that we would have here. At least there's clarity in the fact that there's only one running back to decide on.
Right. Diggs' price point is pretty wild. It was wild on the 2-day slate, the main slate for DraftKings as well. But you've got a Sunday million on FanDuel today. You have the 500K baller on Yahoo. You have another monster. You have big contests over on DraftKings as well. Just looking at this, Stephon Diggs is 6,500 on DraftKings, 2,700 on Yahoo, which is still, cheaper than Mike Evans. And then on FanDuel, what's he at? 7,800. So yeah, he's the 4th highest priced receiver there as well.
Yeah, I think that he could go completely nuclear in this game. At 6,500 on DraftKings, you need like a 20-point score, 25-point score to feel like, okay, that is a tournament changing score for Stephon Diggs. And that's what a hit looks like for him. So he doesn't need some sort of otherworldly production here against a Kansas City defense that, yeah, I guess you could argue they pulled it together in the second half of the season, but they're really closer to league average in schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to opposing offenses. And in PFF's team defensive grades, they're 12th of the 14 teams that qualified for the playoffs. So it's certainly not a scary matchup for Stephon Diggs. And with the way that this team and Josh Allen has been playing, he's certainly the highest probability option on a team that I guess is technically an underdog, but again, has one of the best implied totals of any team on this whole weekend slate.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to figure out what you want to do with Diggs than it is with Gabe Davis and Sanders and all of these guys, Isaiah McKenzie, because Beasley was complete non-fat. He ran 8 routes. I know I mentioned this yesterday, but it's significant. He ran 8 routes last game, and that was a playoff game. Granted, they didn't have to do a ton, but Allen still threw for 5 touchdowns, and Beasley was still mostly uninvolved. So with these tertiary options, what do you do with them not named Stephon Diggs? And of course, Dawson Knox as well, coming off that big 2-touchdown performance against New England.
I think this is really annoying from a clarity standpoint and really fun from a DFS standpoint, because you kind of have 2 players on this offense who mix in and out as the deep ball specialists in Gabe Davis and Emmanuel Sanders, which is really funny since one is really young and one is really old. And then you've got 2 short area specialists. Obviously, Dawson Knox was taking a lot away from Cole Beasley. That may continue here. I wouldn't be surprised if Cole Beasley, just coming back from COVID, needs a few weeks here, and then suddenly he's feeling good, ready to go, and suddenly he gets one of those quintessential 11 targets for 68 yards in a score game that we've seen in this offense. Isaiah McKenzie is another short area weapon that they're fine using here. None of them are high probability plays. We're talking about between a 5 and a 15% chance of being in the optimal lineups here, but all of them are viable when you consider the game environment, the stacking ability, and the salary here. I'm probably getting to at most 2 of those players I mentioned, and only in large field tournaments. I would prefer to keep it to 1 and take some shots here on some of the other value running backs instead, in general, unless I need to get like a 41 player to round out my line.
I know the mic clipped a little bit, it cut out a little bit, but I knew what you meant.
It did.
Hey, you're fine, dude. You're fine. Benny said it's always primary or tertiary with Lofty, never secondary. No, I used secondary frequently yesterday, as a matter of fact. But yeah, sometimes we jump around. I like to mix it up on you guys. By the way, thank you for getting us over 500 likes. Appreciate you heading into this Sunday 2-game slate, Matt. And we've got Kansas City on the other side. I should point out too that if you wanted to get like if you're already at Yahoo and you already used your free month and you just wanted to get back into it, or you wanted to check it out, or you already have a Yahoo account and you didn't sign up through us, awesemo.com/join. You can do express pass, weekly pass, one sport, all of the tools you can do for the week, the month. If you wanted to make a legitimate investment, you could do the year for just basketball, just football. Obviously, we're coming up on the end of that. Golf is in full swing. Whatever you want to do, awesemo.com/join. Check out all the tools that Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, built, and so many guys behind the scenes like Steve Buzzard and Sean Zahn and Eddie Lai, and a phenomenal play. You don't see it much, but you probably see 1-800-EDDIE atop the leaderboards all the time. Just these guys built some of the greatest tools out there that have helped a lot of people win. If you want to check it out, for any style of player and no matter what your budget is, we got something for you. Awesemo.com/join. And if you have questions, my DMs are open on Twitter. I have no problem answering that if you're not sure which way to turn. All right, Matt, Kansas City. I think this is a little straightforward, just in the sense that Tyreek Hill is too cheap, and you know that he's a good play. Like, do you have to play him? No, but he's a good play, and I think his heel is fine. We all talked about it yesterday. That backflip was pretty evident that you push it. He's okay. He's all right. They didn't need him last week. There were like 5 guys with 5+ targets in that game. And then you have Kelsey, and then you get into the Pringles and the Mecole Hardmans and the Demarcus Robinsons. Let's sit on that first, because I actually think it's far less interesting than the backfield is for this team.
Okay, first of all, you were selling it short on these shows this week, saying it was a backflip. He went like full back handspring, like bring it on, before they called back that touchdown. That heel is fine.
I know. I tweeted it. I tweeted that despite the fact that he was short of the goal line, they should have rewarded him 6 points anyway. I mean, that was one of the sickest celebrations I've ever seen in my life, dude. It was awesome.
Yeah,
so you're right. I sold him a little bit short.
That heel is fine if you're doing stuff like that on the field.
He caught a long ass touchdown after that anyway.
Complete non-issue. So Hill's salary makes him one of the obvious plays on the slate on draft. No question about it. Byron Pringle, shout out to Matt Kajeski, had that call last week. 5 targets, 2 touchdowns on those 2 targets. He only had 37 receiving yards, but when you get in the end zone twice, it's a pretty good play in DFS. So I see it as around 4K access to an explosive offense that just happens to be an underdog. So in that regard, Hardman is also a play. I'm not really getting to Demarcus Robinson, but you could technically count him there. To me, I definitely want to get as much Tyreek Hill as the salary necessitates. It's a lot. He's a value play. But then I'm just tacking on any one of them with, I guess, right now, Pringle is my highest owned, just barely here.
Okay. I like it. I am very, very much not sure what to do with the backfield. If I had to take a guess right now, though, I think you could see a lot of passing work again for Jerick McKinnon. I'm not saying that you have to load up on him, but this is just my interpretation, right? We get some things right, we get some things wrong, but you have to look at it you have to find which way you think it's going to go. Otherwise, you're just, doing yourself in. I think Edwards-Helaire gets a decent amount of work coming back. He hasn't been on the injury report really all week, for most of the week. But I think McKinnon probably gets involved. And if Darrell Williams is active, I'm not confident that he's going to see much of the field at all.
This is really fascinating, right? Because we've got a clear salary differential that the public sees as irrational, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back from injury is a higher salary than Jerick McKinnon, who had a notably great game, 142 total yards, 25 plus fantasy points here. Jerick McKinnon is going to be utilized just based on the fact that he played great last week. I don't know, though, that we should see the public being saying it's double the chance that Jerick McKinnon has a great game compared to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Right now on DraftKings, the expected ownership is about 31% for McKinnon at 4,800 compared to Edwards-Helaire getting just 14% at 5,200. Like, we can find 400 in salary this Sunday here. And I don't know what this backfield is going to look like. I think Jerick McKinnon might be the more explosive player in a vacuum. But when I see that the public has already decided here, and what I see is a very uncertain situation, why don't I just go with the more low-owned player, especially one who has the pedigree of being a first-round pick and the starter when he's healthy?
That I agree with. I was surprised that McKinnon was getting as much ownership as he was. It was kind of shocking to me, Matt.
He's a good play. Like, he's the 7th highest running back in salary on DraftKings, and he's the 4th highest running back in our projections. That is a full go in terms of you can play him, right? But the confidence in that is where I'm not really understanding it.
But what I'm saying is that Edwards-Helaire, like you said, he's still a former first-round pick. That doesn't mean he's a first-round talent at this point, but does he get involved? Does he get a decent workload? Is it possible that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the one that gets the goal line carries? Yeah, it totally is. And he's getting nowhere close to the same ownership as McKinnon. So I agree with you there. And Sammy, I told you I'd get to that question when it came around. Hopefully that answered your question. Also, Dave, let's see the haircut. I just got out of the shower and Jordan was like, right before the show, he didn't know I was about to put a hat on. He's like, yo, you got to do something about that hair, man. So you don't want to see the haircut today. We just got out of the shower. Look, it's a mess, but a solid fade. I mean, it's a good fade. It's just everything else up top is not going as planned. Anyway, Matt, wrap this game up and we'll toss it over to Live Before Lock Crew. What are we thinking?
I feel like we have undersold the fact that from a real football standpoint, this has the chance to be the best football game of the entire season. These two teams know each other well. I always think to that shot that they kept Stephon Diggs staying on the field and watching that Chiefs celebrate their opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. I think both of these offenses you want to load up on, and I hope you saved a lot of roster spots if you played the 2-game slate, because I think we've got 2 awesome contests. I'm honestly underweight on both Kansas City running backs after that whole diatribe.
All right, let's close it out with this super chat. Scarecrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire's 5,200, McKinnon's 4,800. So use Clyde Edwards-Helaire in all lineups to start with and replace the McKinnon close to lock when news comes out. So salary works out. What news are we talking about?
He's playing.
What? He's not even on the injury. Unless we're talking about Darrell Williams, but that doesn't really matter one way or another, right? Because if you think Darrell Williams plays and is going to get a lot of work, that affects both of them. So I don't know. I wouldn't worry about.
Here's the other thing: if you do have Darrell Williams as that like what the heck play, you can just straight pivot Byron Pringle because they're both 4,200.
Yeah. But that reminds me, you should definitely be putting if you're hand building, put any late game players in your flex spots. Don't forget to do that. It's possible that news could happen, right? It's possible that Williams ends up ruled out, and then maybe both McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire become even better options. So that's something to keep in mind. Matt, fun as always, man. Good luck to you today. Good luck to all of you guys, and have a great rest of the weekend. I'm going to go watch some football, finish building these lineups, maybe get some hair of the dog. Shout out to Jordan Klein, as always, for producing the show. He's probably already started over there on the West Coast. We'll catch you guys back here soon. Stick around. It is, who do we got? Eric Lindquist and Jordan Vanek coming up next, live before lock. Good luck, everybody. Peace.
that night, which
Oh.
ended up doing him very well. I mean, he just basically was like, hey, Steph can outscore him. Why not completely fade it?
Next level. Such as Adam, though. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NFL Live Before Lock show presented by Yahoo. Hello. Good morning. Excited to be here. It's kind of morning. This is the latest NFL Live Before Lock I've had on a Sunday out here on the West Coast. 11:06 a.m. here, 2:06 p.m. out on the East Coast. My brain just malfunctioned, mainly because I don't know what's up in town. I've got a new co-host today. This is fantastic. I'm excited to be doing a show with Jordan Vanek. This is easy enough. At Jordan Vanek DFS on Twitter. My guy, how you doing this morning?
Doing good. Excited to do a show with you. I know that we've been bouncing around in the chat here and there for college football prize picks and those NBA shows that you do with Greg. So it's finally good to get on a show with you and talk some football, with playoff football too. Hopefully these games are a little bit better than last night's.
Yeah, I thought they went pretty well. I picked both dogs, money line. Let's go. Woof, woof, quack, quack. For everybody paying attention at home, smash the like button. We don't have enough likes on this video yet, and I'm very vain. I need to get those like counts up for us here. Subscribe to big subscription push that we need to have here at Awesemo.com. We just need to get that thing up to 75,000, then 80,000, then to the moon, baby. We need 1 million subs by the end of the year. That's not going to happen. Jordan Klein's not even involved or listening to me, whatever. But I would love if you guys would smash that as well and the notification bell, because you want to know when all the content here at Awesemo is going live. Jordan, let's start here because we go position by position on this show. But I think there's a lot of Tampa Bay stuff we should be talking about with this early game specifically. We got Wirfs. We got news that he's going to be out. Starting right tackle from Tampa Bay, not playing. Gigantic news there. But what matters for our DFS purposes is there's one guy in particular that I think you want to talk about here at the beginning of the show, and that's with Cyril Grayson and Brashad Perriman out. John Brown, the floor is yours.
So I was looking back at his previous years with Bruce Arians, and John Brown was getting 28 to 20-yard targets a season, which is pretty much equivalent to what Tyreek Hill has. Matt Savoca was talking about it earlier. The Buccaneers do not have any speed at that wide receiver position. I'm looking at John Brown to kind of take the deep role and try to be their deep target. And in large field GPP at 3K, I have no problem going to Brown. Mike Evans is going to be probably the primary deep target, but if they're bracketing him in coverage and John Brown just slips up the seam, it only takes one. We saw Brashad Perriman basically get signed to their team, get elevated. And in that Bills game, he ran a drag route. Brady just threw it to him, and he broke for 53 yards and a touchdown in a GPP. Was a GPP winner for my buddy who I believe was playing the Showdown slate. It's I think John Brown can do it on this. It's a 2-game slate, and there's anybody to do it. It's him. I'm not buying in and sending 100% of John Brown, but I think out of this 2-game slate, you got to get unique somewhere, and here's where I'm willing to do it.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that exactly Deshaun Jackson, where you could get one target, and that's all you're going to need. But there's also a very, very real chance that there's a 0 waiting for you. And that's why there's 2 guys I think that are just going to be on the field a lot. And what you're going to do with them if they end up in the right lineups, I think you should have exposure if you're making more than one lineup to both Scotty Miller and to Tyler Johnson. I'm assuming Tyler Johnson is going to be on the field more. He did not play well against Philadelphia. He was very timid. We talked about that a little bit before the show. And Scotty Miller, I think there's an ownership discount there for a guy who's going to probably, I'm assuming he jumps in and plays some slot, but what are you doing with those 2 guys specifically on this slate?
I like Scotty Miller preferably over Tyler Johnson just because the way he played, and just Tyler Johnson is more PPR. I didn't see much down the field action for him. And when he did go down the field, it looked like he was looking over his shoulder for the safety every single time. I don't have much love for the Buccaneers passing attack today because I believe the Rams are actually going to win this game. So I like the Bills Chiefs game a lot more for some of those cheaper options. But in terms of those 3 guys, it's John Brown, Miller, and then Tyler Johnson for me.
Well, we are on the same page then. For me, a lot of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday shows were dedicated to waiting for these 2 games specifically. I'm in love with the Rams side. I think the Rams defensively, PFF's #1 graded defense. We have an offense that if OBJ is going to be as open and if Cooper Kupp's going to get the amount of attention that he probably rightfully gets in this spot against a decrepit Tampa Bay secondary, I'm feeling pretty darn good about the chances here for the Rams. Definitely more bullish on them. Of course, betting on Tom Brady. What could possibly go wrong here? But I'm definitely kind of on that side here too, with Scotty Miller being the guy that I think possession receiver, perhaps, just a little bit quick dink and dunk, probably going to be something too, where I don't know how much time Tom Brady's going to have back there, but with no starting right tackle there, probably makes a difference here. Anything else you want to add to the situation before we talk quarterbacks?
Nothing much. I mean, worse, if he would have given it a go, I saw a tweet by Mitchell Schwartz earlier in the week where it's a right ankle sprain, and for the right tackle, that's your anchor. That's putting all that weight on it. I think it's better that he is not playing in a sense, because I think he would have been a liability. You saw when he went back out there against the Eagles, like 2 plays later, he just got bulldozed by Derek Barnett and Brady got sacked. And it was like, oh, that's not good. This guy is seriously hurt. I think that this Rams pass rush should get there. This is the reason they traded for Von Miller. This is the game that they need them to step up.
Yep, definitely. All right, my friend, let's get to it here. The quarterback position. And we talked a little bit about the first game. We'll go back to Tom Brady, Matt Stafford here next, but let's talk this late night hammer, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. If you had to start a franchise today, you're putting Joe Burrow into the mix, but you're picking one of those 3 guys, I think, to start your franchise for the next 10 years. It's going to be what I assume is going to be the most enjoyable, ridiculous offensive explosion we have waiting for us on the slate. There are a lot of pieces that could benefit, but the quarterbacks themselves, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, above and away the highest projected here on this 4-game slate, as well as today's 2-game slate. Which one of those 2 do you prefer to stack up tonight?
I prefer Patrick Mahomes. He's been a cheat code lately. He lowered his ADOT, which has basically helped him as a quarterback, where he's willing to just get the ball out in space and give his guys a chance. And everybody talks about how great the Bills defense is. I understand that they're very, very talented and they've been very good all year. They've played 2 quarterbacks that have thrown for 4,000 yards. Brady put up 38 against them. And then Mahomes, in a game where they were down by 18 early and he turned over the ball 4 times, he still managed to put up 23. And in that game, they had Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White lined up with Tyreek Hill and held him to 3 catches on 7 targets. I prefer Patrick Mahomes over Josh Allen. Josh Allen's still fantastic play. He's going to get a ton of rushing stats and put up big numbers. He's a real threat to get that double bonus, which is not many quarterbacks possess. And but if you're giving me the 2, I'm taking Mahomes over Allen today.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White, it's interesting too, because I feel like he was probably the guy who took at the cornerback spot this season, the biggest drop off until he got hurt with that leg injury. 67th for wins above replacement rank at PFF. So again, a guy that made a difference in that game for sure. And Tre'Davious White, I think, has enough of a long-term sample size where we can look at him and be like, yeah, this guy's really, really good and a difference maker. But, for the most part, I think the Bills have kind of escaped pretty healthy. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm also looking at. They've only got 3 players currently on the IR, no other waiting in the wings type questions that we have here from the Bills side. I think it's pretty straightforward what you're getting. Whereas with the Chiefs, we have running back question marks. I don't know what to think about Williams. I don't know what to think about CEH, McKinnon. We will obviously get there, but I feel pretty confident that Josh Allen, he has all of his tools around him. We had Dawson Knox out there for a period of time. Emmanuel Sanders has been dinged up. Cole Beasley hasn't been on the field, period, but he shouldn't probably be. Gabriel Davis has taken a step up. I kind of like the Josh Allen side a little bit more. Now, I also think the Bills win the football game, and that's not some egregious take to say that, a game with a 1-point or a 2-point spread, depending on where you're looking at, which you should be looking at oddshopper.com, that it could be competitive and the Bills could win. But I think just looking at the health of these teams with the rapport that he's had here on the ongoing, New England is a solid defense. We would all probably agree with that throughout this entire season. They just put on one of the most ridiculous clinics ever. I'm going to be going back to the Josh Allen well once again. Very excited about that game. And again, Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to have shares of, just not as many shares as Josh Allen. Now the next period, because for me, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, I am far more inclined to go to Matt Stafford, which feels ridiculous to say out loud. I'm very aware, but I think that stacking him up with Cooper Kupp, having that option, and then Odell, what we saw last week, Van Jefferson, 83% of the time during the regular season, the Los Angeles Rams played in 11 personnel. That is the highest in the entire league. I think there's a lot of wide receiver options. Tyler Higbee, clear cut, the only guy that I want to play from the tight end spot. I find him to be very easy to stack up as opposed to Tom Brady, where there are so many question marks at the wide receiver position. How do you feel about Matthew Stafford versus Tom Brady in terms of which one you want more of on this slate?
It's going to come down to whether Stafford's going to turn over the ball. If he
Yes.
turns over the ball, it seems like he just has an awful game. But if he doesn't, they're undefeated when he doesn't turn over the ball. And in each of those games, he has 3 or more touchdowns. And then when you look at like Stafford's overall, you want that 300-yard bonus on DraftKings if you're going to be playing him, because that's the only way I think he beats out Mahomes or Josh Allen. And in those games, he had 100 yards on 20-plus yard throws in every single one of them. And then you look at the 20-yard targets for like his stacking options. Odell and Kupp lead the team with targets since Odell has joined the team on 20-plus yard throws. But when it comes down to catches, Odell has only 1 catch, and it was that Green Bay one that everybody remembers. He ran a slant and go, caught it 54 yards, touchdown. While Van Jefferson on 9 targets has 6 receptions for like well over 150 yards. And Cooper Kupp, again, he had 11 targets on 20-plus yard throws, 6 catches. So the stacking options for me for Stafford, I'm going with Kupp and Van Jefferson, and I would prefer to play Odell in non-Stafford lineups because he gets that red zone usage and those short intermediate touchdowns, which is so important.
Yep. I'm looking at the Stafford side here as well. Also, I don't think that Jordan is saying, hey, John Brown, I like him more than Tyler Johnson and Scotty Miller. It's simply that you need to find a way to get different on this slate, and he's going to be completely unowned relative to those other 2 options. And so there's definitely some upside there. Do you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is more Showdown. Like, if you're playing that Showdown slate, take the 200 John Brown and just have fun with it. Like, it allows you to get Cooper Kupp, Brady, Stafford. Like, it makes your Showdown lineup a lot better, and it only takes 1 throw, and you're there. You probably got the close to optimal lineup as long as you're building it right elsewhere.
Yeah. So if you want to check out the top Showdown plays tool, which I got to tell you, the best in the industry in terms of finding leverage, in terms of finding upside for some of these massive GPPs that exist for every showdown, for everything going on throughout the playoffs, head to Awesemo Plus. Get Awesemo Plus here, awesemo.com. Sign up there. We right now $29.95 for the weekly pass, player projections, ownership projections, top stacks tool, lineup builder, premium Discord, so much stuff here on this side of the paywall, including, of course, those top showdown plays. But of course, if you're only looking to play NFL DFS and not having NBA or MMA or PGA or all the other great content that you probably should want, but whatever, $3.95 is the weekly going rate for all of that stuff. So stop guessing, start winning, join Awesemo Plus today. All right, my friend, let's head to the running back position where I think there is some definite, I feel like there's clarity now that we have here with the Leonard Fournette situation in this early game. There is definitely some question marks, though, that I have about Cam Akers and his current level of ownership, 36%. That makes him the 3rd most popular play here. Let's talk running backs in this early game. Leonard Fournette, yay.
I'm on fading Leonard Fournette.
Oh my dear God, you are a sicko. Go ahead.
Okay, the hamstring injury terrifies me, man. I never really buy into it. He's coming at such a high ownership. Like, if he was in the 30s, like low 40s, I think I'll be getting the shares of him. But for me in tournaments, I think I'm just going to get completely unique with it and just fade him entirely for me, just the way I'm building. And I think this is a clear week that we're just going 2 running back builds. I don't think there's 3 running backs that I'm getting to and putting one of them as my flex this week.
Oh man, that is lovely. I mean, here's the thing. Leonard Fournette, I think just in our boom bust tool, there's just so much leverage that was had earlier when we didn't know what was going to happen. And as we got closer to lock, he's gotten more popular. There's no doubt about it. Now there's negative leverage, whereas earlier in the week, he was around 45%. You were getting 13, 14% leverage. And I was doing shows talking about how Leonard Fournette has positive leverage, yada, yada, yada. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So I think that there's a lot more uncertainty. The guys talked about it being pretty clear cut on the last show. I find it kind of be the opposite, but Leonard Fournette, I'm going to be around maybe even a tiny bit over the field over on DraftKings 5,700. I think at the price point, you talked about wanting to play 2 running backs. I do kind of have 2 running backs in mind here. Devin Singletary, we'll talk about in the next game. But for me, my big fate comes to Cam Akers. He is 5,500. He looked quote unquote explosive, which I'm not going to disagree with. All I'm going to tell you is that he had 17 carries for 55 yards, and everybody's acting as though he blew up that slate in some kind of tremendous fashion, which is definitely not the case and not what happened. I think Sony Michel is somebody that at 10%, I want to get over the field on here. I think that we're still going to see some workload there for him. How do you kind of feel about this Rams situation?
I'm definitely going to be underweight on Akers, but I also feel like this is a slate where none of these running backs get into the 20s. Like, I think this is going to be a comfortable, probably maximum running back score we're going to see is in the 16, 17 range. But with the Rams, it's like, who's going to get the goal line work? Because I don't think any of them are going to break a long run against this Bucs defense. They're healthy on that side of the ball. Levante David and Devin White are the best linebacking core in the NFL right now. And it's just going to be about who is the red zone guy. And I know Cam Akers has looked the part, but I agree with you on the Sony Michel take, where I would rather be overweight on him because, again, he's still off the Achilles injury. They're both going to be splitting. It's not like they're both high volume, pass catchers like you have with Singletary and even Fournette. And personally, like, my favorite on the Tampa Bay side is Gio, because the way he looked against Philly is fine. And I just think he's that, going to catch 5 to 6 passes. He performed really well against the Rams the first time around, and he's also healthy. So this game, I'm not getting too heavy onto the running backs, but my preference is Gio over Fournette, which is obviously with the reason why I'm fading.
Man, if this comes to fruition, y'all, I mean, again, this is like hot take central we got coming out here. I mean, this is like, I don't even really know where to go. I'm going to need Jesus after this show, for sure. But here we go. We've got another situation in this Buffalo Kansas City game. Let's talk Buffalo, where Devin Singletary pretty clearly, with his 75% plus of snaps he's played, actually 68% plus of snaps he's played in every game since week 14, 82, 93, 68, 80, 76, and 86%. Pretty certain that he is one of the major reasons that I feel confident they have some semblance of a running game. I feel like for the first time since Josh Allen's been there, and it's not just Josh Allen having to run the football. So we're looking at 80 plus yards in his last 3 out of Devin Singletary, lots of snaps, lots of touchdown potential. I think he's the most clear-cut, obvious play that you can't be fading whatsoever at the running back position. Do you agree with me?
Yes, I agree with you there. And especially since he's been the primary pass catcher out of the backfield, like in this stretch of games where he just started to get a ton of touches, like, yes, they don't like to run the ball when they're losing. But in that Tampa Bay game where he only had 4 carries, he managed 52 yards, which is great. But he caught 6 passes. Like, if they're not able to run the ball effectively or they're playing from behind, he's still going to be on the field, and he's just going to be a pass catcher, a check down option for Josh Allen, which is tremendous. Like, this is a running back that I'm just taking the 100% on, pretty much 80%, just because I'm going to be well over the field on him, under the field on Fournette, and that's just where the chalk that I'm willing to eat.
All righty. Well, here we go. This is the part that I'm not excited for. I think the most ridiculous situation we have to break down on this entire slate is what to do, if anything, with Kansas City Chiefs running backs. And I think, even if you're saying, I think it actually is more important to analyze in the event that you think no running backs go for over 17, because one play could be the difference between winning $1 million and winning $100. Trust me, we know. Like, there's just that one spot. So Jerick McKinnon, CEH, Darrell Williams, pick one relative to ownership.
I would ride with Jerick McKinnon. He looked fantastic in that game. I've always said that I hate the way the Chiefs use Clyde Edwards-Helaire because he's not his own cut running back. He's not fast enough. He doesn't have that acceleration. McKinnon showed it. He was that wiggle room against the Steelers. Steelers are a much worse run defense than the Bills, so I don't think it's going to be a high point total from that position. And then Darrell Williams, the toe injury seems to have limited him enough that they're like, yeah, no, he's not going out there. And then the one play he was out there, it's a fumble touchdown because they're doing a wildcat. Don't know why you'd ever run a wildcat on that side of the field when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. I get it when you get creative with Kelsey and certain things, but just a weird formation when I just want Patrick Mahomes under center the whole time. But and their running backs, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is coming back. It was a shoulder injury, so it's not something I'm super scared that's going to limit him. But again, I think it's going to be a pretty 50-50, 60-40 type of split, and it's going to be probably 12 touches each.
Yeah. Looking at hockey free Sean. Oh my God, playing 20 max and all Stafford. Yeah, I feel you. I feel the pain. I have way more Stafford than I should on this slate, knowing that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are the 3 quarterbacks you're fading to roster Matthew Stafford. Trust me, you're not alone in that department. But I'm with you, I think, where Jerick McKinnon, I think, can be the most explosive, but I'm finding myself landing on more CEH. And not by much, because again, this is not a running back situation that I'm super enthusiastic with, but I'm getting less than half the ownership there. We have 30.8% going towards Jerick McKinnon on DraftKings, Clyde Edwards-Helaire 13.6%. When healthy, CH coming out of LSU. I mean, this is a guy that Andy Reid has probably given too long of a leash to. at certain points in time. He's had some fluke stuff happen this season. We've actually had flashes to some of what they had drafted 2 years ago, kind of the form that they had been expecting out of him. That Philadelphia game, he was exceptional. Everybody was exceptional in that Philadelphia game. The Chargers game as well. Chargers, obviously, we know, give up a ton of yardage on the ground here as well. But even in limited work there, he's found ways. I just think he's the guy at the goal line. Who do you think would be getting the carries here from Kansas City? Do you think Jerick McKinnon is out there just for the passing game role?
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be more of the goal line back, but I also think Kansas City is just going to stick to the passing game towards the red zone. I think they'll try to get the ball to Kelsey, Hill, like even McCole Hardman, like on short type of jet sweep type plays.
Yep.
But if you're guessing who's the goal line back between the two, Clyde will definitely handle that duty over Jerick McKinnon, because McKinnon hasn't really had that at all this year, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And McKinnon definitely, I think, could get 4 or 5 catches, and that kind of makes goal line work a moot point to a certain extent. But if I'm chasing upside, I get an ownership discount on CEH. I think that he's a guy that I'm just willing to roll the dice on a little bit more. I love Darrell Williams. I think he's been a decent addition, but when all three have been out healthy here, we see his snap counts go to, some of those early season 28%, 37% going through some of those box scores. Now, if he's on the field a third of a time and you're able to roster him at, absolutely zero ownership, that would be great. But I think you're giving up a lot. 4,200, I would almost want to zero out those builds just so nobody else could have access to getting to a guy like Darrell Williams. I would not be leaving 600 on the table and expecting Darrell Williams to be Jerick McKinnon or CEH straight up. I would probably find a way to use up some of that salary so that it was a unique build where I needed to have Darrell Williams rather than it was something where he outperformed the other two. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I just actually pulled up the exact numbers. Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't have a single carry inside the 10 this year. And he has 2 carries inside the 20 for 7 yards. So like the Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be the clear-cut goal line back. He has 8 carries inside the 10. Darrell Williams actually has the most on the team, but again, that toe injury to just completely leave him like off the field in that first game was like, okay, like he's not 100% healthy at all.
Yeah. And you had CEH out week 6 to 10, and then you had him out again week 17 until now. So, for me, I think CEH is the goal line guy, and I'm getting an ownership discount. That's kind of why I'm landing there the most. Anything else that you want to discuss? Any deep flyers? Any Zach Moss, where God forbid that ends up being a thing today?
I don't have any interest in Zach Moss outside of maybe Showdown. But again, my preference, I'm building 2 running back builds, and majority of them are going Gio and Singletary.
All right, everybody. If you are right now building at home, if you're sitting there in the comfort in your pajamas with your coffee or, your beverage of choice, whatever it might be, and you're wondering where you should be playing at right now because there are contests that have not filled on every single site, I can tell you right now, the best one to go play at right now is the $20 Sunday Baller, $500K total prize pool, $100K to first over on Yahoo for a multitude of reasons. 1, there's still 8,000 entries open in that thing. Number 2, it already has no fee to play it. That's no rake. So you're legitimately not paying anything extra other than what goes into the prize pool. And there's a chance of overlay. I think with just 30 minutes to go, it might overlay as is. So like legitimately, there's no better place. And third, new Yahoo users. If you've never had a chance to play over at Yahoo, go set up an account, deposit $10 or more, and play in any paid contest, including this $20, obviously. And you will get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So, as much as we'd like you to spend $29.95 per week to hang out here at Awesemo, get an entire month for just that $10 of playing at Yahoo. Math tells me that that's a great idea. So go do it. This Sunday Baller that we've got up on the screen there from Jordan Klein, the best producer in the game, named Jordan Klein, bar none. No doubt about it. Maybe not, maybe the second best Jordan on the show today. I'm not sure, but we'll see. He's in a coma. What is Jordan Klein doing? Do we have producer Cam to flash up quick? You needed producer Cam this. This is like the most, he's like leaned back. It is full out. Like he's taking a nap and I don't know what to do with this, but whatever. I'm having fun with it. Just telling you guys, play at Yahoo. It doesn't get any better, more fun than this because once again, no rake is as good as it gets. 16% rake is about the going rate for DraftKings FanDuel, 0% today in that Sunday Baller. So stop guessing, start winning. Join us at Awesemo Plus through this promotion with Yahoo, which is the best we have ever run, that we probably will ever run. That's the past tense word. There we go. check out the Sunday Baller. And thank you so much to Yahoo for being sponsors of this deeper dive and live before lock crazy stream that we've been running every single Sunday, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 hours sometimes. Thank you so much to them. All right, my friend, wide receiver, where I think this slate is made or won in a lot of capacities. Well, that's kind of a stupid thing to say because, even defense is a roster spot and we got to find a way to get that one right. But Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans, we have so much upside to be paying up for here at this position. I'm landing on Cooper Kupp just by a landslide. Like I'm getting to so much of this cat. If he does not go nuts today, I will have no chance to win. And that is just fine by me. Who do you prefer at the top end of wide receiver?
I am with you on Cooper Kupp, and then my other complete preference in the 6K range over all of them is Tyreek Hill by a good margin. Like Tyreek Hill to me is probably my favorite player on the entire slate, just because one, he has that 50-point upside. He's always been able to do it. And without Trey White, Tyron Johnson and Levi Wallace cannot keep up with this dude. In the playoffs last year, I look back because I want to see, I remember Tyreek Hill just running wild on them, just on like a little short route. Tyron Johnson guarded Tyreek Hill, or was targeted on Tyreek Hill 3 times, gave up 90 receiving yards, and the ADOT on targets was 6. This dude doesn't know how to tackle him from what I'm seeing. I went back and watched, and it was just literally Tyreek Hill just playing Madden. Looked like he's playing Madden on rookie, just stopping, juking left and right. That heel was a concern for me, but the man did a backflip, and that's all I needed to see to know that he is A-okay. And in this game, I expect a big one from him.
All right, we got a super chat, and again, we're at the wide receiver spot, so I'll touch on this FanDuel large field 2v2 here in a second once we cover Kansas City wide receiver 2s. We talked a little bit about Tampa Bay on the front end. Obviously, Mike Evans. I think if I'm getting to a lot of Cooper Kupp, I think it makes sense for me to get to a little bit more of Mike Evans. Tyreek Hill, I don't want to say I'm lower on, but I'm kind of lower than the field on him. And it feels really, really uncomfortable because for me, it's also a 2-game slate where it's like, if he goes for 50, he goes for 50, but it's not like I'm playing a 12-game slate with Tyreek Hill. I think that there's definitely a floor that's been established for both him, for Stephon Diggs. I would say for both of them. Obviously, I want to get to exposure to both. I'm playing more than one lineup. I'm playing more than 20 lineups, playing more than 150 lineups. So like legitimately, there's no way that I'm not going to get to some of these guys. I'm just a little bit lower on the field because of how much Cooper Kupp and Mike Evans. I feel like Mike Evans, I have to bring along for the ride. He's really the only wide receiver pass catching option from Tampa Bay that you can really trust going forward, has a tremendous goal line role. And if Cooper Kupp goes nuts, and completely devours this slate the way that I hope he does, Mike Evans probably has to come along for the ride in at least some of those lineups. But this next tier of wide receiver is very, very fascinating. We just saw Odell Beckham go completely berserk. He's the only wide receiver on DraftKings in the 5K range. Gabriel Davis is somebody who's kind of showed to be the wide receiver 2 there in Buffalo over the course of the second half of the season for sure. Van Jefferson, I alluded to 83% of the time the Rams play 11 personnel. That's the highest in the regular season this year. So even him as a wide receiver 3 becomes very viable. But my favorite guy, Byron Pringle, 4,300. I am just relying on this guy being the wide receiver 2 there now going forward. I think, between Hardman, between all these other guys, Demarcus Robinson's been trying to be a thing. Byron Pringle is the thing. And I'm going the most to him. Who do you land on the most in the 4 and 1 player 5K range?
I mean, McCole Hardman. I'm on the opposite Chiefs wide receiver too, and it's just because I think the Bills are going to attempt to keep everything in front of them, and that opens the door for Hardman on screen passes. The Bills, amongst the playoff teams, I believe, gave up the most yards to screens this year. And you saw Kendrick Bourne from the route data; he was the most targeted Patriots wide receiver on screens. I think that's where his role is perfect for McCole Hardman. And then the other guy, even though he has been absolutely awful as of late, he hasn't been much on the slate. It's Cole Beasley. The Chiefs play a ton of cover 2 coverage. They're going to attempt to keep Josh Allen from throwing it 40 yards down the field like he did a lot the first time around. And for the Bills to bring that safety down, I think someone's going to have to win underneath. And it's, for me, Cole Beasley, who has just been awful, hasn't been used a lot, and someone that the tournaments is coming in super low owned. Yeah,
I mean, McCole Hardman, for me, like obviously he returns punts, he returns kickoffs, he does a lot of other things. He does get like 1 or 2 of those gadget plays a game where, it's the glorified Devontae Adams rip. It's a beautiful thing as a Vikings fan, but whatever. You basically throw those little out routes to the sideline. You say, Mecole Hardman, run that way, make plays, enjoy. So Mecole Hardman, definitely a fun guy to watch play real life football. I just, if you don't get that big play out of him here, I think that there's a lot of opportunity cost amongst, I like Byron Pringle. I think even Van Jefferson and OBJ, 5,300. I think he's going to end up more popular than the 20.6%. We just saw name recognition, a dude who's cheaper than the other four go completely nuts against Arizona. Didn't really have to do much in that entire second half. They were obviously way ahead. It became Run Fest 2022, but 4 targets, 54 and a touchdown, looked really, really spry. If that's a thing that people care about, which they obviously do because they're rostering Cam Akers today. OBJ, I just like those guys a little bit more than Mecole Hardman, but Hardman has the ownership discount, 13.5% for him. So if you're looking and playing that game, which I think you really need to be on this slate, not a bad spot, pretty easy to play 20, 22, 25% of him, be double the field and move on with your day, especially now that Tyler Johnson is going to be garnering more attention. Scotty Miller, we talked about Tyler Johnson as well. And John Brown is your boy. You will eternally be staked to John Brown for the rest of your life, regardless. I mean, it's going to be a bagel or it's going to be 15. There's really no in between, my friend.
No, it's going to be, and the fun part is it's like maybe 2 catches. Like if he catches 3 passes, I feel like I won. I don't even care if it's
2 of them are touchdowns more than likely.
Oh yeah, no, John Brown is he's a complete dart throw in terms of the large field GPP stuff. But again, with these Bills and Chiefs secondary passing options, like you're going to have to pick a stand either way. I don't disagree with you on Pringle at all. Pringle's been he was one of my favorite receivers when he was in the draft. Yep. Shout out, I think it was Brian Kelly, one of the better guys that break down some NFL prospects. He was super high on him and showed some of the clips that he had in college. Like, oh, this guy's really good. And they landed on the Chiefs, and now he's definitely earned that wide receiver 2 role. I think Demarcus Robinson should get the all sprint award because he is out there and he is just running around, it feels like.
I love that. All right. Any other deep flyers that you've got your eye on, somebody that you're either on or completely off for one reason or another, the likes of Isaiah McKenzie, who got some extra second half run there, ended up getting 3 catches for 45 in that showcase that the Bills put on, or, maybe a Demarcus Robinson shout out, anything on the very, very bottom of the barrel?
I mean, from ownership perspective, it's Tyler Johnson is the complete fade to me. I know his optimal is really high in our boom bust tool and stuff, but I'm looking at 16% ownership, and I'm just like, I would rather play Mecole Hardman, Beasley, Van Jefferson, just guys that are around that, coming in a little bit lower owned. And then Gabe Davis is coming in very high, which is someone, as I was worked with UCF, I was a player personnel intern while he was over there. Super cool dude, but coming in.
Shout out.
Very, very fun times indeed when they're national champions and stuff. But
oh my God, don't even with that.
The biggest troll. Oh, great marketing tool. Great.
Yeah,
we were fantastic.
You had to do it. I don't blame you, but it was just like, there's one trophy, and wherever it goes is probably the national champion, if I had to guess.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Gabe Davis, he was a walk-on. He was one of the dudes that works really hard. Very excited to see him at Buffalo. It's just 21% ownership, and he's a dude that's like priced higher than someone like Van Jefferson. I think is way better of an option because he gets better targets down the field, and against Tampa Bay secondary, which is much worse because like the Chiefs, as bad as they were in the beginning of the year, a lot of that was the turnovers that Mahomes has had. When they got Melvin Ingram, they were able to start getting after the quarterback, which was helpful to that secondary.
Yep. All right. And yes, John Brown plays for the Bucs. Congratulations to everybody there in chat who knew that ahead of time. But yes, it's pretty random when somebody makes their debut for a franchise. I'm not sure. Did Dave Tyree play any games before the Super Bowl? I feel like he was a guy that I don't remember playing for the Giants that season until that catch.
Yeah,
I can't
same.
Who cares? I'm just saying John Brown is making his debut in a Bucs uniform in the divisional round of the playoffs, which is just funny to say out loud. But yes, Bruce Arians guy, best of luck to you, Jordan Vanek. Twitter will be aflame one way or the other. Congratulations on the clout. Oddshopper.com is a fantastic spot that you need to go utilize in order to be able to watch some of these games live and be able to bet. Because if you're in New York, you can now do that. I saw a ridiculous thing where they've already had over $600 million of handle in 9 days since sports betting went live in New York. That's just riding the wave. And part of that is going to be going for you guys. If you're in New York or any other legalized spot, going to oddshopper.com, playing some of the best values using Awesemo's projections. It's pretty simple. You simply click on oddshopper.com. You go to NFL bets. You can group by any game that is ongoing. If you group it by your state, you can see exactly what the line and the spread is offered in your state. You can then sort by expected ROI, which I prefer because, again, return on investment is really the name of the game. Doesn't matter to me if it's plus 120 or if it's minus 225. I want to find some ways to make money, and this is the easiest way to do it. So head to oddshopper.com, play along at home. Looks like we're shorting a lot of Jerick McKinnon numbers. Looks like we're shorting Clyde Edwards-Helaire numbers. Scotty Miller, though, the under on 1.5 still looks like something that, we've now changed that to 2.3 receptions. So that's changed. So be aware, under 1.5, that's a plus 120 that's sitting at that. Because of the number, I'm assuming plus 120 might be the reason that you're looking at having that be something with a 70% expected win percentage. But it's so easy to be able to look at this page and kind of get a sense for who some of the better deep flyers might be on a certain slate as well. If it's something that garners a lot of attention in our projections and is getting no ownership, such as a Cameron Brate or a Scotty Miller in this kind of regard, you're going to be able to cross-reference your projections and decide whether or not that's something that you want to play. So even if you're just playing DFS, there's an opportunity to have OddsShopper be functional for you. But most importantly, if you're able to legally bet sports, jump over, check out some of these props and win money. We now have the props builder as well. Parlay builder makes it super easy to put 2 or 3 of those together. We have different types of those, and it can really, really make a difference. So check it out. Oddshopper.com. Thank you so much to them for existing, because I like money too. Let's head to tight end, where we have 18 minutes left. Might have a little bit of time to talk here at the end, but there are some definite studs in Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce to pay up for $6,500, $5,800 on DraftKings, respectively. Which one of those 2 studs do you prefer on this slate?
I prefer Kelce. He's one 100-yard receiving game away from breaking a record for most straight 100-yard games in the playoffs. He's on 4, needs 1 more to get 5. And against the Bills, he's been able to get them on a few different occasions for a touchdown. I believe he has 5 touchdowns the last 3 games against them. And again, he's just a guy that I expect to get 10 to 12 targets. Both him and Gronk are fantastic plays. I just lean Kelce because of, 1, he's going for that record. 2, that game is just the game I want more of.
Oh, you're done. That was quick. That was a very Matt Kajewski move by you. If you've seen the shows, Matt Kajewski, it's just like he'll be having a good conversation where he's just like, "Hey, yeah, no, I decided to." Yeah, I went down to the bar and we were having a drink, and then he's.
Oh yeah, no, Matt.
He does that all the time.
Oh yeah, Prize Pick shows. I got used to it.
Oh, you have a Carolina Panthers shirt on. You're sad too.
I'm a sad
person too.
We're not. Vikings. Hey, my buddy's a Minnesota Vikings fan. He doesn't exactly like it. 45 mil Kirk Cousins, though. Next year, 1 more year left.
So Rob Gronkowski is definitely the option that I prefer between the 2. I know that you like Travis Kelce, but you're also a bad person who makes fun of me on your first show with me as if that's something that is okay. It's not okay. Okay, Dawson Knox, Tyler Higbee, that's your next tier of tight end. We're kind of like looking at these. They go by 2 by 2. Hurrah, hurrah. Dawson Knox, Tyler Higbee. Pick one of those 2.
This one's tough, but I lean Knox. If Daniel Sorensen gets matched up with him, I just know the Bills are throwing at that guy the whole game because it's just what you do. That's just how you get deep plays against the Chiefs. Every single one of them, you'll see Tyrann Mathieu in the back, arms wide open, just sitting there. Why are we letting this guy be on the field? And Dawson Knox did it to him a few times in that first matchup.
I want to just tell everybody that I just passed up an opportunity to sing Creed. So, I want to let you know that is my gift to you in one of the final Live Before Lock shows that we have is, arms wide open. You can't say that and then not hear Creed go through your brain. You've actually kind of ruined my day. Thanks. Tight end. Do we have any deep flyers? Is Cameron Brate more viable in the absence of 48 wide receivers on the Tampa Bay side?
Yeah, I mean, especially with that pass rush, I think they'll utilize 2 tight ends a lot. And Gronk's basically an extra left tackle, it feels like. He's just phenomenal when blocking. And you could see Brate get a few catches here and there. And 2,700, it's not much to pay off. I think if you're utilizing Brate, it's probably smart to pay up at all other positions, get your Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans lineups, get as many of the top tier players as you possibly can.
All right. Smash the like button, everybody, because we are almost through all the skill position players, and Jordan just crushing the analysis today. No doubt about it. There's a reason he's here at Awesemo.com. He knows football a lot better than I do, a lot better than you do. So enjoy it. 2,500. We go into any of these guys. Is there one guy that you could even make a case for? I think OJ Howard for me would be the guy. Who would it be for you?
I mean, OJ Howard, yeah, I think that's the only other tight end because these other guys just don't get, like, if Lee Smith was still on the Bills, I would say him, but that's the only other dude. Like, they don't even have like a Kyle Juszczyk or something that I could just have fun with at tight end. No, none of these teams besides Tampa Bay utilize that second tight end too much.
Yeah, I don't even know who that other guy you said was. So there's that. Let's talk defense. Then we'll have 10 minutes to take questions. I'm super excited about that. Again, this is a 2-game slate. I knew we were going to fly through it for the most part, but still, we got to be talking about defense matters too. No discrimination here, Squirrel. If you get that reference, we're friends. Buccaneers, Rams, Chiefs, Bills, pick one.
Chiefs. As much as I like Josh Allen, the Chiefs play a ton of cover too. That's one of their primary defenses. Look in the NFL, who plays a ton of that? The Falcons do. Josh Allen against Falcons, 3 interceptions, didn't see the field too well. His yards per attempt against cover 2 this year, I think, is like 7.4 or 6.4, which is very low for him. I expect to see it a lot, and that the turnover upside there and also uniqueness with even playing Josh Allen against the Chiefs defense is something that I'm considering on this 2-game slate.
Yeah, I think getting to defense in that late night hammer, or late afternoon hammer out here on the West Coast, I think it's definitely a viable way of going. I think people are probably inclined to go to that first game more than they probably should. For me, it's just looking at Buccaneers getting 34.4% of the attention there. And I know Matt Stafford has like a minus 130 or 135 interception prop. As you said earlier, not turning the ball over, an important key point for the Rams here today. But I still think that that's just a high number there. And considering how many times have we seen the Chiefs go out and just throw an irrational amount of picks where Tyreek Hill just can't secure the football. Tip pass here, tip pass there. Mahomes tries to do too much. Now, maybe it's something where he's regressing towards the mean for certain things where he makes all these amazing elusive plays and eventually it catches up with him. For me, I'm just landing on a $2,600 Bills defense a lot. They're the cheapest over on DraftKings. I can get a bunch of skill position players. It's a pretty unpredictable position as is, but I would say that Patrick Mahomes has been turning over the football a lot more than you would expect. Maybe not as much here in recent weeks, only 2 picks since week 13, but there's still been these games where it seems like there's 1 or 2 plays that, like, I don't want to call them boneheaded. They're just kind of fluky plays that something happens and it gets returned for a pick 6. We've seen it multiple times now. Could Kansas City still put up 35 on the Bills? Absolutely they could. Well within the range of outcomes when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, but I do, just like with the 49ers yesterday, which was my defensive call from this entire week, I think that there's something fluky that could be in store for the Bills defense. So that would be my favorite. Are you getting to any of them?
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't hammer in on one defense. It's just a position that all it takes is a blocked punt. That's a blocked punt and you're there. You're optimal. Like if you're playing the 2-game slate and you got a 49ers defense in your lineup, you got a chance that we got one of the positions to be optimal because I don't think any of those defense outscore the 49ers. And then I think the Rams are also a unique one. Both of the 19% ownership defenses are playable. And I know Brady doesn't, go out there and turn the ball over a ton. But if the worst is the problem and you see Von Miller and Aaron Donald start making plays, sacking and different things, you could see a tipped pass off of Tyler Johnson's hands going to Eric Weddle and pick 6. Like those types of things come about, especially in the playoffs. And again, it's not out of the realm of possibilities for the Rams to go score a touchdown.
Totally. 10 minutes to go, everybody. Smash the like button. Get your questions in. I got a $2 super chat from Zweet for not singing Creed. You're so welcome. See, I knew what I was doing. I knew I'd get $2. I had no idea I'd get $2 out of it. I know there was a 2v2 earlier in the show here. Let me go find that one. There it is. Madison T. FD large field, Singletary Pringle versus Hardman CEH.
That's a very tough one. I don't like CEH too much. So I prefer Hardman over Pringle, but I don't like the fact that CEH is coming back with it.
Well, then you could definitely just say Singletary Hardman because salary wise, it works out.
Okay. I didn't know.
They would be leaving salary on the table.
Okay, yeah, FanDuel, that's fine. FanDuel, I'm not too certain of the salaries off the top of my head because I play more DraftKings than FanDuel. But again, I prefer Hardman. I think screen passes, short game will be important for the Chiefs in this one.
All right. So option C, we're going for Jordan in that spot. Orion, $1.99 FD Showdown. Dart throw John Brown over Darden.
Yes, Jalen Darden has had plenty of opportunity to see the field, and the Bucs, for whatever reason, haven't really done that with him. I think it is a lot to do with his inability to get off of get off of corners, get their hands on him. He's still a phenomenal player in terms of speed. I don't think that he's earned that role because he just hasn't been out there.
All right. I think we got all the super chats caught up there. Appreciate you guys for reaching out, giving us some extra love here on this lovely Sunday afternoon, talking football, 2-gamer. I think this is going to be a very, very fun day of football. Do you have any picks for the game? Who do you believe wins these 2 games today?
I think it's going to be Chiefs Rams. Those are the 2 teams that I expect to win. And I think that Chiefs, like the Bills defense, is just going to have a nightmare trying to stop Kansas City with what Mahomes has turned into. If he starts forcing it downfield, that's where I see the Bills end up winning. It's going to come down to his ability to stay patient, because once they bring that safety down, you'll see Tyreek Hill down the field.
I love the Rams call. I've been beating the Rams drum here for a while, where I really like them again in this spot, and betting against Tom Brady just feels so dumb. But you just look at the 2 teams and you look at what they have for a wide receiver core there in Tampa Bay and what Tom Brady's working with. And he could probably make you or me a viable wide receiver, but like legitimately there are so many issues with what they have going, just kind of can't stay healthy. And now you lose your starting right tackle, all pro right tackle. And you have a massive, massive issue there in containing a defense that is built to go after the quarterback. So we'll see how it pans out. But then I'm on the Bills side. I think the Bills just absolutely go nuts today. I'm very excited for it. Looking forward to seeing Josh Allen have a game that's like, this is part 2, the sequel of what he did last week. Looking forward to it. This is his Empire Strikes Back. Looking at that. Brown, 90-yard slant to the house. Your lips to God's ears, because I didn't imagine clicking his name. Jordan Vanek, anything you want to revisit on maybe the most talked about 3K wide receiver of all freaking time?
Hey man, I just have the thought here that he gets on the field. They need deep plays. I have the Rams winning. With that, I think Tom Brady is going to drop back a lot of times, and John Brown will have the ability to see the field. It's not something that I'm just, I'm 100% on, but it's for GPP, large field stuff. All it takes is one catch from the dude that can make or break some of these lines, because I am getting a ton of Cooper Kupp and a ton of Tyreek Hill with Kelsey as well. So getting those guys, you got to have some sort of cheap play, and that's where I'm leaning.
Who do you have more of, Kelsey or Higbee for DK and FanDuel?
Kelsey by a good margin. I don't have too much of Higbee. Higbee is one of those guys that I like, but I just don't see the Rams needing to do it. And it's, especially since I have the Rams winning, if they're not playing from behind and they get, they're up by 10 points, McVay's going to run the ball. I think that McVay will try his best to keep Brady off the field. And it's going to be a lot of even if they try to throw the ball, it'll be a quick screen to Cooper Kupp, something really quick just to move the chains.
All right. Paul Hollis, he asked chat, who is the best low-owned captain play for Bucks Rams Showdown? And then he tagged me. So he goes, best low-owned captain play for Bucks Rams Showdown slate. I mean, we had said John Brown, $200 opens up the entire world to you, I suppose. But I'm assuming that's not your favorite. Sounds like you're playing some Showdown there. I've got one lineup. I'm not doing anything special there in that. But do you have a preference? Who's your favorite low-owned captain over there?
I mean, low-owned captain. I'm plugging in Cooper Kupp quite often, so it's not it's not the crazy. I'm going for that. I think John Brown just is fine just to play as himself. And then when I'm looking at ownership, just to make sure, want to see who exactly is the low-owned guy on that.
I would say Van Jefferson looks like a guy that might be a little bit underappreciated. I mean, obviously Cooper Kupp, the ceiling is there. Odell Beckham, I would assume Tampa Bay is going to try to do things. I mean, they're just not very good in the secondary. It's going to be very fascinating to see this matchup. It's definitely the weakness of the Tampa Bay defense. Van Jefferson, I think, has shown some explosivity. Is that a word? Explosivity? It's definitely not. He's shown some explosiveness over the course of this season where he can definitely go for massive ceiling games. I think he's going a little underutilized in the captain spot.
Yeah, 3.4 or 3.8% ownership is definitely something I'm interested in, because I mean, even Cooper Kupp's only coming at 17. Obviously, that's still pretty high in a showdown slate, but it seems like this is very spread, not something that we're just hammering anybody. So again, I'm just playing Cooper Kupp in my showdown because I'm only doing like 5 or 6 lineups. And again, John Brown is the guy that makes this work.
I love Tiger Woods so much, but Tiger will not win the U.S. Open. If you had to pick one event that he was going to win, the U.S. Open is the dead last worst possible one. I'd say the British Open probably the most likely, the Open Championship, if you will. I believe it's at St. Andrews this year, so check it out. I think that would be the one that I would bet Tiger to go out and win. You can kind of slap it all over that golf course. Driving doesn't, as long as you stay out of the pot bunkers, you are in golden territory. It's a glorified pitch and putt over there, but the home of golf, I would love to go there one day. That would be the one that I would expect him to have the best chance at. I don't know. Augusta obviously is always something in play if you've won it 5 times, but that would be the one that I would pick. I think St. Andrews is just kind of built for a Tiger Woods. If he was going to play well in one, you have to fade the flight over, I suppose, make sure that his back's still okay, but whatever. Odell captain lock, probably not. Lindquist getting claps. Take truth over conformity. That's a very deep name to be giving me claps, but I appreciate you. Greg SJ, flat as a pancake. What? Okay, whatever. Tiger always wins at Hooters. Yes, everybody wins at Hooters. Anything else in 3 minutes that you need the people to know about your lineups as we go into lock, Jordan?
Not much. I think, again, this is a really interesting spot to get unique because there's a lot of secondary options with your Van Jeffersons, Odells, Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, who was a name that we didn't touch too much on. It was a play that I loved last weekend, not getting too much of him against the Chiefs. But again, it's someone that can definitely score a touchdown because the Bills used 4 receivers, 3 receivers, at a very high rate.
Best 2 tight ends to play together. I don't know how it isn't Kelsey and Gronkowski.
Yeah, no, Kelsey, if you're playing 2 tight ends, I like Kelsey and Gronk because I think they can both get to the 20-point mark. Like, I think they're very capable to do so. And I don't see that necessarily from Knox or Higbee unless they catch 2 touchdowns.
That's what Greg SJ was saying. Yes, St. Andrews is flat as a pancake. It has no elevation change. It is literally in the flat there. So there we go. Now I have some context for that. I don't know how you assumed me to know that, but yes, obviously I'm going to go sweat a little bit of golf and watch some of the Amex. I thought I was going to have the worst lineups of all time. It's turned around with the help of, Patrick Cantley not going completely berserk yesterday. That was useful. Xander Schauffele winning the Masters. I don't hate that call. He's pretty good at golf. He won an Olympic gold medal. Hard to win those just by being bad. Let's see. Anything else here? We've covered everything. There's 2 minutes left to go here. We've got our picks out. I'm going to do 75 yards and a touchdown. Normally it's 100 yards and a touchdown here on this show, but if you can lock in one player to have 75 yards and a touchdown on this slate, not named John Brown, who would you want it to be?
Tyreek Hill. That's the guy that I expect to get that number. I expect Tyreek to have over 100 yards. He hasn't scored much in the postseason, like in his career with Mahomes, but again, I think that he's going to get it done. He had no touchdowns last year in the postseason.
All right. Byron Pringle would be my guy that I would just, if I could get 75 and a touch out of him right now, I would take it and run to the bank. I think that's what you could probably say about any sub 5K wide receiver, but I definitely think he's hashtag good at football and hashtag important to this Kansas City Chiefs team, staying competitive and just going outright winning the game here. But once again, Buffalo side, pretty intriguing. I just think Singletary and Josh Allen. It's hard to know who else I really want from the Buffalo side. We shall see, though. Jordan, let's get ourselves out of here. Appreciate you so much. Jordan Klein, so weird. I go from having 2 Matts to 2 Jordans in my life here the entire time. Jordan Klein out there living his life in undisclosed location. We appreciate you so much. Jordan Vanek, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
No, appreciate you guys tuning into the show. I hope John Brown wins one of you money. I expect a nice, happy tweet about it if that happens. Tag in the Awesemo Hall of Fame because, I should win if John Brown does anything.
I should win. That sounds like a man who sounds really confident about this call that he just got us all on. Appreciate you. Really fun doing our first show together. Couldn't have been more fun. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to me. Best of luck to you, chat. We'll see you back here in 2 hours for the NBA Live Before Lock show. I will be on that, of course, with my buddy Matt LaMarca. Until then, best of luck. We'll see you guys later.